Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of The Movie Date with Rob and Matt, a podcast for people who like movies but don't want to be too smug about it. I am Rob.
And I am Matt.
And I am also very hoarse today, if you can't tell. I'm auditioning for the role of Smaug in the new Amazon Lord of the Rings series that apparently costs $460 million, the single most expensive season of television ever created. And it better be fucking great.
And also, there's a lot of pratfalls going on in it. I don't know the details to all those, but there's been a lot of
One of the writers left, and then they got rid of one of the leads, and we're moving forward. So I don't know if they're rewriting it on the fly. Like this has I have a sneaky suspicion this could end up being like a Justice League 2.0, where it's just a colossal disaster. I hope it's not. I hope it's not. I love Lord of the Rings. I want it to be good.
You know, what are they going to do in that verse? I mean, are they going to do like their own story? But they're not going to do. They're not going to do Frodo and.
It's going to cover Morgoth coming to the Men of Numenor, and then his betrayal and turning them, and then it will culminate in the last alliance of men and elves versus Sauron. I think that's what's supposed to happen.
Okay.
Which sounds in and of itself cool, but we're not here to talk about Lord of the Rings.
Right. We'll talk about Lord of the Rings.
Talk about the best 90s dance track ever released.
They should have just had that song just raw in this movie. They did not. They have a dance.
We don't want to get into it yet, but
track of it.
But when they do like a dubstep version of it, I was like, it's not the same.
Yeah, I was like, I was that.
You already had perfection.
Yeah, I was already that emoji that just is like, okay. We're gonna talk about the new Mortal Kombat today, but let's hit up some movie news, things that have come up of interest within the time we've been apart. You can just do these trailers, I guess. First thing is relating back to something we had talked about previously, and I've already seen the first episode of, but mum's the word on that as well.
Don't you dare tell me.
Is season 4 and the series of this finale of Castlevania on Netflix.
Which I'm kind of sad about, maybe. I don't know if we've reached the end of these characters yet.
I'm very excited to see what happens, because that means they're going the show is a success. They're going to continue, but they've got so much to work with. They've got so many different timelines, different characters. They've got the whole that Nintendo and Konami had released over time that they can do with this. And being that I've played quite a few of the Castlevania games, not entirely, not all the way full, there's a lot of fun characters to dig into. And with what
apparently a lot more Belmonts than I
a whole litter of Belmonts.
Yeah.
I mean, they got Belmonts coming out of your ears
at the wazoo.
Yeah, they got Belmonts there. They got Belmonts way back when. It's all speculation of what games they're going to pull from this time, because this one pulled mostly from Castlevania 2.
Yeah. We watched their first trailer, though.
Yeah, we watched first trailer.
You watched that and the first episode.
What did you think about?
I thought it was awesome.
Yeah,
but I had some lingering questions about like there's a part where like some new character goes and talks to Alucard and asks for his help, and all I could think of is like, but is he okay from what happened last time, from that borderline rape that happened to him?
Alucard, are you okay? You've barely touched your you've barely touched your Baja Blast.
Yeah, I know, but like
he's big time sad boy.
He's like the actor is, I think it's James Callis or whatever, and I love that performance of him.
Yeah, he's great.
It's so great. But like last, for those of you who haven't seen the last season ends with like a montage of orgies kind of happening, which I'm not necessarily against the orgies,
right?
But like what happens to Alucard is so heartbreakingly sad.
Yeah, Alucard essentially allows people into his life after people have left his life, because he's a lonely Dhampir who's a moody boy.
Well, that's right. He's not, because he's half human.
He's half human.
He's not a vampire.
So he doesn't worry about sun and things like that. But he's got Dracula. He's got his father's castle
and the Belmont hold.
Yeah,
well.
He's got the Belmont hold and everything. So he's kind of chilling there, and his loneliness is killing him, as Britney Spears would say.
Yeah. He's literally playing with puppets.
Yeah, he's playing with puppets, and I think he has a great line like, "Oh my God, what's wrong with me?
I'm losing my mind."
Yeah, like, oh my God, But then two adventurers from the Far East show up and ask. I think they're Japanese.
They're there to kill the geisha-looking vampire.
Yes,
that is already dead.
And they form. He kind of takes them on, and they literally have moments just frolicking around each other and everything, and having a great time. And
I honestly
it does not end well.
I honestly did not see the ending come. I didn't even see the orgy coming. I was like, oh, they're just buddies, and I was like, oh, they're having like they're gonna have a three-way in the middle of this anime or whatever. And then it just goes. There's a part in there that really got me like, it's weird how that show can pull the rug out from under you like twice in the second or whatever. But like I'm not trying to read into it too much. As they're having sex, you see like he cries. Because it's been so long since he's felt like any emotional attachment to anybody.
Intimacy of
and I was like, oh, God bless you. And then they try to murder him.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, no.
No, they wrap his limbs up in like silver and he retaliates, and he's left more broken than he began.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Trevor and Sypha are
revealed that there's the man they were working for is a child murderer.
Yeah, and Saint Germain is trying to open the gates. Literally, he's not opening the gates to hell. He's trying to get in there to save somebody.
Yeah,
his daughter.
It's not necessarily hell. It's like
it's
dimensional
like
portals.
Yeah,
or something.
It's a place where you pull video game bad guys out of.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's a place where you pull Castlevania enemies out of.
Yeah, but we do see hell because we see Dracula is there with what's her name? I can't remember.
With his wife.
His wife.
All right. But he's in hell.
Everybody, Hector at the end gets horribly taken advantage of whatever.
By the redhead.
Yeah. The bitch.
Yeah.
We could call it that.
Where she's like, oh no, you're not my lover, you're my pet. And just like, oh, this poor guy. But our other guy, it's Hector and
the other one. It's not Bernard. I was going to say Bernard.
No.
Oh my God.
Ivan?
No.
Isaac.
That's right.
Isaac's
Building
on the up
army.
and up. Isaac's doing okay. This is
he's
summer
about
of
to
Isaac.
wreck shop.
Like Isaac has started off pretty on the shitter, and now he's like he's doing lich level necromancy.
You know what I realized about this show that I didn't realize, so maybe like just now? All the male characters are these are these sort of monuments of. They're these very genteel kind of I don't know what the word is. I don't want to say like beta male because it's not nice.
Right. It's not accurate.
Yeah, but they're these very genteel. This is a show about like
they're romantics
and emotions
in a lot of
romantics.
Ways.
Like they're all, even like Trevor in his own way. Like he's a wise ass, but he's also like he's in love with a woman,
right?
Really
and she's in love with him as well. Like that's the thing is at the beginning of season 3, you love watching their murder shenanigans.
Yeah,
because they just love it. They just love killing monsters.
And like even like Hector, like in his conversations with Dracula, he's a weirdly sympathetic character. Isaac is probably the only one that doesn't really fit this mold. But
he starts off very sympathetic, but then his desire for vengeance makes him into this force of like we see it in this trailer where he's just like, I'm done with vengeance. It's conquest now. I've got an army that surpasses Dracula. Like I'm just gonna start taking things.
But I feel like that's a really cool thing. It reminds me of like someone saying like the masculinity on display in not Game of Thrones in Lord of the Rings. They'll like cut orcs' heads off, but they also like kiss each other on the foreheads.
Yeah,
there are these very like I don't know. It's this weirdly romanticized version of.
It's very classical.
Yeah,
it's very romantic. It is literally romantic in the sense of like romantic literature, like Victorian era literature of that kind of ilk, where when we weren't so burdened by postmodern masculinity and toxic masculinity and things like that, where you can wear breeches and kill a guy in a duel for honor. Well, we'll talk about honor in a minute too, because we got something else.
You want to just move to that because I don't.
Yeah,
really
there's not much else to say.
It looks great.
I've watched the first episode. We'll talk more about it.
A bunch of new characters.
Yeah, so some new characters.
I don't know who that is, but I'm curious how they're going to wrap the bookend of season 3 into the beginning of this, because I don't know why. If I was Alucard, I wouldn't leave the house. To be honest.
Yeah,
we'll see what he actually does.
Yeah, there's not much to really go into it now. Like I said, I've watched the first episode. I'm very excited to talk to you about it.
Yeah.
It's already off to the races. They're doing some fun stuff. Of course, Warren Ellis is no longer involved. He's gone.
Oh, yeah, because he got Me Too'd. So everyone's getting Me Too'd. Did you hear, I don't know if you heard this, Jordan Vogt Roberts kind of got Me Too'd. I heard it was like it's a whole
If it happened, it was very.
It's from like 2018 or something. Like
Okay.
it's from like a while back. Apparently, it was like him and T.J. Miller when they were hosting a Comedy Central thing. Like one of the ladies on there was like an adult film star who said like T.J. Miller and him tried to kiss.
Noted bad person, T.J. Miller.
T.J. Miller's an asshole.
Yeah, noted no longer a person, T.J. Miller.
Which sucks because I used to really love his comedy, and now I'm just like,
I'm watching all this weird stuff going on with John Mulaney right now, and it breaks my heart.
Yeah. I think John Mulaney is just hit a rough patch.
Well, yeah, he just got.
I don't think he's not a malicious person.
I don't think he's a bad person. I think him and Olivia Munn are dating like. But it's just kind of curious how it's like, oh, y'all got together fast.
Yeah, I know. Like, but I remember like he was like went into rehab for like cocaine
he was having some trouble.
There was that bit he did on Seth Meyers where Seth looked like John Mulaney. It was like John Mulaney stumbled onto the set mid filming and just started to riff, and Seth Meyers kind of like kept it together, but was kind of like, John, there was a line where he said, and I don't think it was meant to be funny, where he was like, John, if you want to run some of these jokes by me before you just come out here and start this, that'd be great. Like, or whatever. Ooh. And I think it was like a cry for help.
Yeah, I'm very glad that he got.
Me too.
He got support. But anyway,
we're not talking about any of that.
No. I've not heard anything but I'll look into it about.
Which sucks.
JV.
Warren Ellis, again, is another comic book writer that I really like. And that really sucks to hear.
Well, I like a lot of people who have done crappy
Hopefully
things.
this next movie looks like it's just a bunch of people we like and no untowardness.
I will say with the Warren Ellis thing, the writing is still pretty solid. I know where they're going with it.
Adi Shankar is the producer of that show, and he has a big hand in it. I can tell just because I know enough of his stuff to like I can see the edgelordness in all of it, but in a good way.
Again, it could be edgier, but the characters are so likable that it kind of pulls it back. Everyone's got a little
100%.
Yeah,
100%. Let's talk about a movie that was supposed to come out like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
like a year and a half ago.
A movie that I've maybe putting too much emotional value into, and hopefully
it looks great.
Is David Lowery's The Green Knight. We finally got a second trailer for it.
I was shocked by a bunch of stuff in the trailer. Yeah. We'll get to it in a second.
Oh my god!
The first trailer is like a horror trailer.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But this one is more like
a sweeping adventure,
yeah, like a journey into the great unknown.
Yeah.
Literally, because there's a bunch of stuff in there. I'm like, what is that?
Yeah, it is a telling of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, written by who knows from a very long time ago. It is one of the
years ago.
It is one of the peak, as you would know, you're a big Arthurian guy.
Yes, I am.
The peak Arthurian tales of the young Sir Gawain taking on the Green Knight on their turf, and then he says, 1 year hence, if you can lay your blow the second time. And so he goes on his quest. And what I like about what Lowery's doing in this movie, and David Lowery did A Ghost Story, he did
Pete's Dragon, he did Ain't Them Body Saints.
He's
a lot of good stuff.
He's a very dreamy kind of filmmaker.
That's a big thing. Also, like the A24's vibe is also that.
Their brand.
But this is also like it's unlike anything either of them have ever put out before, because it is like an epic. Yeah. But it's also like it has that vibe.
And this trailer makes it less seem like it's a gimmick of like a horror movie and more of like a surreal quest, like that is leaning into that butting of heads that Arthurian legend does between the rising of modern Christendom and the fading out of paganism, and those two worlds landing in liminal places. It feels very liminal. It feels like between spaces, between times.
If there's gonna be horror in the movie, I think it's gonna be something more akin to like. You ever see the movie Annihilation?
Hell yeah!
I think it's gonna be like that.
Yeah,
where it's like real trippy, and you like lots of weird vibes, and like there's a part where he's tied. It's in the first trailer, and they show it in the second trailer too, where he gets ambushed. And he's tied up on the ground. And then they see a shot that mirrors that, but he's a skeleton in the first trailer.
And this time you see one of this kid holding his axe and saying,
and there's a talking fox, and there's big giant people with like blank face, like
they look like the Attack on Titan Titans.
They're untextured CGI characters or whatever.
Right, which kind of adds to it. Dev Patel looks great.
Yeah.
He's very exciting lead.
And you know what, to get into like race bending and stuff, like I don't think I don't care either. Like, I think it's cool that he's like a knight,
right?
Like that's a role 10 years ago that he wouldn't have been able to play, and nobody's upset. Like, there were Indian people as knights in King Arthur's courts. I'm like, King Arthur's a fictional character. It doesn't matter.
Hey, guess what?
He
didn't happen.
There
were characters similar to him, but also like those people were not. You know, the guy. I can't remember the actor who's playing Arthur.
Sean Harris.
Harris, that's right. Who
was also in a movie. When we get to recommendations, I have another movie with him that I
know him mostly as Solomon Lane from the Mission Impossible movies. He's the arc bad guy of those movies.
Meaning he's been in more than one.
He's been in only two. Which I'll talk briefly. Yeah. There's been very little bit of Mission Impossible 7 coming out.
Oh, like, is it like being pushed back or?
No, there's just been new shots taken from production.
Oh, yeah. Is he coming back?
I imagine so. He didn't die in the last movie.
Yeah, he didn't die in the last movie.
He's kind of like, but they have him in custody.
But they had him in custody the last movie.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that there's like more. Eventually, it's going to get to the point to where like, how many master plans can you have if they keep failing and you keep ending up in jail? Like,
yeah, you really. I've got a Mission Impossible script in the back of my head to end all this. Like we gotta pass this on, Ethan Hunt. Anyway. Speaking of voices that you're trying out for, Ralph Ineson is voicing the Green Knight.
Yeah, he's from
The Witch.
From The Witch, and he plays Dagmar in Game of Thrones as well. Yeah. When he knocks out Theon Greyjoy, he goes, "A foreign speech." I love that one.
Yeah, he's got a very sonorous, intense voice that they really didn't have to put all that effect under, but it makes it work.
Every time when I saw him at the end of the first trailer, when you see the Green Knight, I thought it was CG.
Yeah,
but it looks like
it's
like
a costume.
I think it's like either real prosthetics or like prosthetics combined with some CG elements or whatever. It looks crazy and great. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But
so it doesn't look like anything I've really seen before.
Speaking of The Witch, the mother is in there too. She plays Igraine or not Igraine, Guinevere. King Arthur's wife is the mother from The Witch.
Oh, so they're both okay. That's a big A24 connection.
Who was also in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, she's John Aaron's wife. Who's
crazy.
Yeah, the one who goes through the sky pit.
Yeah, that's right.
Really good cast so far.
Joel Edgerton's
in it.
He's also produced. That guy gets around, man.
Mm-hmm. Joel Edgerton is in this Barry Jenkins Underground Railroad series that they're doing right now.
I heard that. Yeah.
I watched a little bit of the first episode. I just put it on. I fell asleep and then like woke up and it was on. And there was a segment with the main character, because it's based on the Colton Whitehead novel, and so it's the antebellum South and all that, but literally there is an underground railroad. There's like railway systems. It's kind of got like a very, very light steampunk element to it, but mostly it's a alternate history of that era. And I forgot the actor's name, but it's the guy who plays Dewey Crowe in Justified and has played Charles Manson a couple of times. Is that guy? He was Charles Manson in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, he
shows up in it as like a good guy who's helping out, and it has this it also feels like an adventure, like a mythological, like we have to take this path, and if we take this path, this is the road of desolation, North Carolina is off limits, say all that to say like that's something that looks interesting, and Joel Edgerton's kind of like the big bad of
every time I see Joel Edgerton in something, he's either like helping write the screenplay or he's like producing the movie too.
He's sharper than a lot of people, I think, give credit.
Yeah, I know. Because I feel like he only wants to work on stuff that he has his hands in creatively. But anyway, let's move on to Warner Brothers has announced. This is like there were rumblings about this like a year ago, but they've officially announced that they are moving forward with J.J. Abrams as a producer and Ta-Nehisi Coates as the writer.
Yeah,
and they're doing and they have made it very, very clear they're going to be doing a black reboot of Superman. It is not a continuation. It will like recast the character.
Right. It's gonna be
they want to have a black lead and a black director.
Okay.
And a lot of people are mad about it.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. I have a more nuanced opinion about it, but the thing that really seems to sting is they released it on Henry Cavill's birthday. And I was like, ooh, that feels intentional.
I hope not. I
don't know. I wouldn't put it past them.
They could have waited a day after.
Yeah, they could have waited a day. And also, like, I feel like it was supreme. Like, I would like to think that Warner Brothers or whoever is smart enough to know that when you release this news, everyone's going to be mad, and they're going to be like, everyone, like the people who don't even like DC are going to be mad. The DC fans are going to be mad. The Restore the Snyderverse people are definitely going to be mad or whatever. So like, I question the legitimacy, or not the legitimacy, the efficacy of putting it out before you've cast your lead or your director, and you're just announcing to the world, hey, we're doing this, and like. It isn't even to the point where we've cast anybody yet. So, like, I would have waited a little bit till you have at least a proof of concept.
Right. But I would also say, like, to make a concept like that and put it out there, they shouldn't have to be worried about that.
I understand.
And the fact that they have to be worried about that says a lot of things.
Crazy thing. They asked old Z Snides what he thought about it, and his quote was, "I love J.J. Abrams, and I think it's a bold, cool, and long overdue move." So keeping it classy. Army of the Dead's apparently quite good.
Okay,
That's coming out in a few coming out next week. I don't really have anything else to say about that, but like. I really struggled with myself being like, as someone who like Henry Cavill's Superman is like a formative Superman for me. So I'm trying to look at it dispassionately and be like, should there be a black Superman, or is there anything wrong with a black Superman? And objectively, I came to the answer of no, but I think it's lazy, and I'll get to my reason why.
I think when you have someone like Ta-Nehisi Coates involved. And I've not read any of his comic work. I'm just familiar with his regular literature.
Ben Shapiro hates him, but I've read.
Of course he hates him.
I've read some of his stuff, and it's all right.
Yeah.
It's not the greatest, and it's far from the worst.
Of course, he doesn't come from comic books originally. He's a novelist. You know, he's a novelist and a nonfiction writer. But you know,
but J.J. Abrams is a blockbuster.
Right.
If he's your producer. Like plenty of people,
he's got the money to make this go through.
Chris Terrio wrote Batman v Superman and Zack Snyder's Justice League, but he came from Western literature. So,
that's true.
Having a team of producers,
the Benioffs, the Benioff came from writing novels,
but
I think we'll just have to wait to see. Like, I mean, really, you don't have to. I don't know. It depends on what kind of story you want to tell with that framework.
The only details they've said is he will be playing Kal-El, because a lot of people when they said this were like, oh well, okay, we're doing the multiverse, just cast him as the Earth 2 Superman, which is Calvin Ellis, who is a black dude, and they were like, nope, we're doing Kal-El. So that's
because that's what people know.
Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, if I say this is Calvin Ellis, people would be like, who's that?
Yeah.
But then again, no one knew who Miles Morales was.
I was just going to say, no one knew who Miles Morales was. Now,
that movie
now we all know.
Kind of did it. So
yeah.
I'm not necessarily saying you couldn't make Calvin Ellis, like to quote Mean Girls, make Calvin Ellis happen. Or whatever.
It just depends on the kind of film you make.
What I came down with was ultimately the idea, like because I think we talked about this once on a previous episode, which is like the idea of this comes off Emily Blunt giving her comments about like she doesn't like superheroes because we are inundated with superhero content near constantly. Jupiter's Legacy just came out and people are kind of like, it's whatever, like The Boys, Invincible, like Falcon Winter Soldier, Loki is coming up. Like there's a lot of superhero content.
There's a lot, yeah.
But I would argue there's a lot of it because we like it and we keep watching it and buying it. So the market just gives us more of what we want. But I feel like I 100% agree with the idea that like if you're a person of color and you grow up seeing every big hero of any sort of big IP being mostly white and mostly a dude, it gets very easy to become inundated to this climate of, well, whiteness is just sort of the default.
Yeah, is innately protagonistic.
Yeah. And white people, like, black people like never get to ask the question of like, well, why can't they be black? Because the mere question to a white person now seems like, well, why do you have to change it? It's like, well, they're not changing it. You didn't change it when you made X and such white.
Right.
You just made him white. So it's not necessarily changing it. So I understand the idea that like, and it goes a long way for the culture to be able to say like, getting to see yourself heroified in the media you consume is important. In a number of ways, not just because like, oh, it gives you bragging rights or something like that, but because, representation in media filters down from all ends of society. Like a kid who grows up only seeing white superheroes, but who got to see Black Panther for the first time. That could be very formative for him.
Yeah, especially if it's not a niche sort of thing. I feel like so many like mainstream film, black superheroes in particular have always been kind of niche until Black Panther was mainstreamed it. Like you could say Blade, but Blade was a hard R like vampire slaying movie.
Yeah.
Even
and
if
the
it
third one, it was very much lampooned.
Yeah, and so it's like, we're talking about
And that was before superheroes were. What
that
they
was
are
the
now.
first like major revelatory superhero film outside of when Spider-Man movies came out.
And arguably, it's not even a superhero film. He's
No,
a comic book character.
He's a comic book character,
but like it's not quite a superhero film.
Not in the way he was very 90s, but there's a difference between doing something that niche. Same with Asian superheroes or Arabic superheroes, Persian superheroes, anything like that. Indian.
To have a Kurdish superhero. That's my peeps. I want a Kurdish superhero.
Why not? But it's
that'll
like
never happen.
But it's like when we say that representation matters, it's a matter of just seeing that story told from that perspective. It's not going to deliver a hammer down and recontextualize the whole thing. It's just it's necessary. It's worth it to do something like that, especially to do something interesting.
A lot of people,
how many origin stories have we seen of Batman over and over and over again? How many times have I had to see the Waynes die?
Arguably too many.
Too many.
Even too many flashbacks.
And it's like, but when can I see that take from a different perspective, I guess. I don't see the harm in it anymore, especially because I think we live enough in a time where we can say, like, it's not switching the tracks on a character. That's like, they have to be this from now on.
The big counter argument there's only one counter argument that I've seen that makes sense, and one of these I share and one of them I don't. But the one that I don't share is like, people who are like, okay, like I'm all for black superheroes, but we didn't take Black Panther and make him white. We just made a Black Panther movie. Which I'm like, fine. And which leads to the second argument is the reason I think, and I'll be the first to say, like,
I already have a thought about that.
Yeah. I'll be the first to say, like, my biggest concern about this is like this movie is doomed before it gets a chance to make its case. And that's what really frustrates me as a Superman fan, is that a lot of people are not going to give this movie a chance because of this political kerfuffle, which I think is stupid and short-sighted, but it's the world we live in. But as someone who has struggled to watch Superman really succeed at the box office, I would be lying if I said this seems like a cheap way to try to get more eyes on Superman, as opposed to taking the opportunity to take all the great black superheroes you actually do have, like a Jon Stewart, like a Static Shock, which apparently there is a Static Shock movie in development, which I'm 100% happy to see.
Static Shock rules.
Or like Hardware, or like Simone Baz and Jessica Cruz, or like Icon, or like Rocket, like all these plethora of DC black superheroes.
Give Steel another chance.
I would love
John
a real
John
Steel
Henry,
movie. Not real the Hugh Jackman movie,
right?
A Steel movie or whatever.
Not real Steel, but a real Steel movie, not one with, what was it, Shaquille O'Neal?
Yes, that was
Shaquille O'Neal.
And look, like it's hard to do a Steel movie without tying it to Superman because
it's all based on the death and return of Superman. Yeah,
but I would be lying if I said and I think I said this the last time we talked about it, is if I have to choose between like cynical sort of knee-jerk reactive representation or no representation at all, obviously I'll choose the cynical one, because I do think while Warner Brothers is looking at this like, well, if we make a black Superman, maybe we'll make $1 billion like Black Panther did.
Right, because we always have to know there's a corporatism behind it all.
Yeah, and that's what I think.
But we shouldn't let that get in the way of the potential for doing something revolutionary or interesting with the, because they're only going to allow so much with this character. Going back to what I was going to say, if I could pop in for a second, is contextually you're not going to make Black Panther white because that character is specific to to the African standpoint, to that point of view. That is his origin. Superman is an alien from another planet that was mostly created by Jewish men as a retaliation against Nazis, and now has almost 100 years later has surpassed that to no longer mean that, but to be some emblematic figure not only of America, because he's got the red, white, and blue on him, but of the world in general.
This is my argument for why
he exceeds race.
This is my argument for why Superman, Superman's whiteness means nothing.
Yeah,
he could be purple, and the ideals would be the same.
Right.
His whiteness means next to nothing. This is why I've always said, like, if there's a character that you could change the race of, Superman. Superman's ideals are bigger than like America or America's culture. America, like Superman's ideas can be bundled up into like one word. It's like hope. Like that's what Superman's supposed to represent. And that hope is not attached to any sort of national identity. He is literally the ultimate immigrant story.
Yeah.
Like that's why a lot
him
of people,
being somebody who isn't white is actually more in context to his themes in a way.
No, I think them making him white was really more an effort to be like, well, he looks like us.
Yeah.
Wink, wink.
Right.
Like, so he looks, because he
passes.
falls in Kansas.
He passes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He passes even though he's not one of us.
And I'd like to think that even though Warner Brothers is cynical to do, and I know this because like I feel like Warner Brothers is cynical enough to like make Superman listen to lots of hip hop and grow up in Harlem instead of Kansas, and like have a friend who is like the soul man best friend stereotype. But I like to think that Ta-Nehisi Coates and J.J. Abrams would let something that happen.
More nuanced than that.
I can hope. So
I mean, I think that there's, again, we're so early in this, it's not really up to us to kind of write that script.
No.
It is up to somebody like Ta-Nehisi Coates to do that, or a writer similar to that to touch on that subject.
I want this to succeed.
Yeah.
But I would be lying if I said I wasn't really nervous about it.
Well, I think we're all very nervous because we hate seeing racism, and we hate seeing racism within our fan groups and fandoms. And
I've had conversations with people who were like, "What's his weakness? Crack a night." I think I said that on this podcast, and the first thing I said, it was like on some Geeks of the World group or whatever, and I was like, "That's fucked up, dude.
Yeah,
you shouldn't say that.
That sucks."
And then I've had conversations with people who are like, "It's not that I and I can't separate this from their politics probably, but it's not that I mind Superman being black. It's that it feels like a cynical opportunity to wring more money out of you than to necessarily take the opportunity to create like really earnest black stories." And I don't disagree with that,
right.
But I also am, like I just said a second ago, Superman's race means nothing to me. I wouldn't care if Superman was white or black or brown at all. In fact, I think in a way Superman should be like an amorphous, raceless figure.
But he has to be human.
Yeah, he has to look human because he has to look like us or whatever. But he doesn't have to be white.
I think it would be a earnest, sincere story to make an iconic character like Superman not white, to make him a person of color.
I agree.
I think because that way you can tell a story. One of the things I've talked with a couple of friends of mine about, and I've seen, is in things like a lot of I was talking about this Barry Jenkins series right now because I haven't really gotten too much into it, but when I think about a lot of new genre stuff that's come out from that have black leads, like Lovecraft Country, or the newer one, which the name escapes me, Us or Them, I think is what it's called.
I can't remember.
Is that it still features, and this is touched on in the Marvel show on Netflix.
Falcon and
Nope.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, in the Daredevil verse.
Oh, Luke Cage?
Luke Cage, yeah. It's touched on Luke Cage a little bit. Is there are so many images of black tragedy in America because we see black tragedy so regularly in our media and, of course, in the news, that the idea of a character coded black that looks that way, that is invincible, that cannot be shot, that cannot be murdered, is empowering and niche and
by
interesting.
definition, it's empowering,
and would be, I think, something. I think with the really unique story and something to be told in that you could tell something that could be very to the core of Superman, hopeful, relieving, instead of seeing more bodies slaughtered for entertainment for tragedy's sake.
Yeah.
It is instead something that is uplifting and powerful. And so that's my last thoughts on it right there. That's what I think about it.
My only worry, when I said like I'm worried about it, is like I don't want this movie to come out to be completely. I don't want a ladies Ghostbuster ratioing to happen to where this movie gets slaughtered at the box office and then Warner Brothers throws up its hands and goes, well, I guess people just don't like Superman anymore.
Right.
And they just don't make any more because that's what that's what happened kind of with the Snyderverse in a weird way. Even though I would argue that those movies were as successful as any of the other superhero movies.
It's just we're in a transitional time where they're not able to kind of see online success versus box office success.
Yeah. I mean, the Snyder Cut came out in China and has been viewed over 300 million times.
Yeah. It's a success.
It's smashed hard, and like we can't even get the numbers from HBO Max. That's another conversation, another story. But my closing thought is like I hope that if they do this Black Superman story, I hope that the character doesn't epitomize his race, but rather I hope he transcends his race, as I think Superman should. Like, there's value in seeing a black person who is invincible and invulnerable and can do all the things that Superman can do, because then black people get to partake in having their race represented by literally the most powerful superhero on screen.
Right.
But I also like the idea that Superman doesn't have to deal with blackness. He's beyond ideas of being black or white or whatever. That to me feels inspiring, and I hope we don't get bogged down in it. I don't want to watch a movie where like Superman gets stopped by a cop or whatever. Not that I think that's an invalid experience, because I think that's the wrong avenue to have that conversation in.
And I hear that, and I, of course, as a white guy, my whole thing is just like, it's not really my place to say anything. It's up for me to observe and see. I think I lean more into the I think about I go back to thinking about John Boyega's whole trouble that he had to go through during Star Wars because of Finn.
They had no plan for him.
But also, like, he's playing a character who is a black man literally in a universe where human race doesn't mean anything, because there are millions of aliens and subspecies and all that.
And there are still people mad at him.
There's still people mad at him, not in universe, because they see him as just another man.
Of course.
But in our universe, they're projecting that onto there, and it doesn't make any sense. But with Superman, I'm like, you can tell that story in a way because he's on our Earth. He deals with our humanity, and he has to overcome it while not allowing himself to be burdened by it. I mean, we see this happen in Batman vs. Superman. Is Superman being burdened by humanity's...
People literally project their own impulses and their own ideals onto Superman.
Right.
Even the negative ones.
And I think that...
So that argument is valid.
Yeah. And I think that when you put in something like, if Superman just happened to be, a black kid from Chicago, then the projection of him is going to represent the man he becomes, the Superman he becomes. I think that there's a very interesting story to be told in that. We can only hope and wait and see. We'll see.
Any more movie news? Or
last thing is just in a fun thing is Netflix has signed on with Rian Johnson to do two more films in the Knives Out series and the Benoit Blanc series, and casting for the second movie has been going bonkers.
Catherine Hahn
just got announced.
Daniel Craig, of course.
Daniel Craig is returning. Dave Bautista has talked a lot about it. He's very excited and nervous, apparently, to be on this one, because Edward Norton, Janelle Monáe, and so I was talking to somebody and they said, well, I sure hope they bring back so-and-so. And I'm like, no, I think what they're going to do is this is just going to be a completely different cast. These are just going to be like Agatha Christie things. Yes, and the only thing that's going to be different is going to be like Hercule Poirot shows up and he's the lead, but the whole cast is different.
Of course.
So they announced Catherine Hahn. Then, before that was Janelle Monáe, Edward Norton, and Batista was the first big get for that. And he's already talked a little bit about it, and I'm excited for the news coming out of that. Yeah. They're getting really amped up to do that second movie.
Apparently, Dave Bautista, he was doing he did a Justice Con event where he was talking about Army of the Dead and stuff, and he says he's obsessed with the movie and the ending. He says he's watched the movie a bunch, but he thinks that the ending is such like a giant mind fuck kind of ending or whatever, that he's just he's obsessed with it or whatever.
Yeah, I need to watch.
But he said because of that. Or when he was doing that, he walked into DC's office and demanded that he play Bane.
Yes, I've heard about that.
Yeah, I just imagining him pushing aside some 30-pound secretary to talk to Walter Hamada. You're gonna let me play Bane? That guy's really nice.
He just puts the mask on, just you know who I was before I put on the mask. Yeah. And he's like, you got it.
Apparently during one of these things, Zack Snyder shared on his phone the image of Wayne. I was wrong. I thought it was a different actor, but apparently it was Wayne T. Carr was the actor, and he played Jon Stewart, and he showed the picture on his phone of him as Green Lantern. And all I could think of was fuck. I felt so bitter. Looks good though. But anyway. Well, I'm super stoked to see more Knives Out movies.
Yeah,
make a million of them.
Yeah, keep the thing going.
In fact, maybe let Rian Johnson do more of that than slogging through Star Wars.
He might not even want to do Star Wars anymore. I don't blame him either.
I wouldn't blame him either.
I wouldn't blame him if he just said, "Fuck all y'all and your Star Wars. I'm done. I'm gonna go make some fun, successful sleuth movies." And I'm like, you know what? You deserve it, buddy. You gave arguably, in my opinion, one of the best Star Wars movies, and they crucified you for it. So, it's the chick track of all of the people at this. Boo this man, this liar.
Boo this man.
We'll leave that. We've already had that discussion.
Yeah, go watch our episode on it. It's
and now
transcendent.
Our feature presentation. We were meant to do this a while back. We just haven't. We just been busy running around. But
I've seen it twice now.
You've seen it twice now? I've only seen it the one time, and it is Mortal Kombat 2021, which was simultaneously released in theaters and on HBO Max, where I watched it. Directed by Simon
McQuaid or whatever.
Simon McQuaid. Produced by James Wan.
Yeah,
it's his production thing. Based on Mortal Kombat by Ed Boon and John Tobias, which I saw that I saw those names were referenced at one point, like in the place where our main character works out at.
Yeah.
They mentioned like Boone and Tobias, or they mix. It was like Tobias Boone or something. Like, you got to go fight Tobias Boone. I'm like, I got that reference. Toasty.
I didn't catch it, so good for you. Yeah. It slipped right over my head.
So this has been a fairly hyped up new in the Mortal Kombat world. We are very far removed from the Paul W.S. Anderson Mortal Kombat from the 1990s.
One of which I think is all right, and the other one is real bad.
Oh, you're talking about Armageddon or Apocalypse? No, Mortal Kombat.
Armageddon. Annihilation.
No, Annihilation. Yeah, that movie's trash.
It's horrible.
That movie is...
A lot of the actors are recast. And they just don't address it.
No. I think
Johnny Cage is killed in the opening of it.
What's his name? Robin Shaw is the only person to return, really.
And Katana.
Yeah. Other than that,
that's it.
Everyone else just got replaced. Yeah. They should have just been like James Remar, who plays Raiden in that, who takes over for the wonderful Christopher Lambert. He should have just said, "Yeah, I just like the Doctor Who. I just changed forms." And it's just like, no, you just got a weird haircut now. I remember seeing that when that movie came out and was just like, what's going on?
Yeah. Because here's the thing. seen that movie recently, the first one recently enough to be like, Christopher Lambert's really cool in it.
He's great.
Like even when
He's great.
I'll be
It's
honest,
fun.
like even when he's not like
The Highlanders
chewing on the scenery and laughing, like even when he's like, they have won 9, this will be the 10th or whatever. And like I remember watching him as Raiden and being like, he flips over Robin Chow because Robin Chow doesn't believe that he's Raiden.
Right.
And then like you look up at him and his eyes like sparkle
that.
electricity, and I was like, that's cool. Even though it's 90s and the visual effects don't hold up at all.
And
it's
it's delightfully cheesy. There's some good stuff in that first movie.
Sure.
There's some great set pieces. I love the place where Johnny Cage fights Scorpion.
See, I hate that one. I like the Sub-Zero fight more.
The Sub-Zero fight's great. Don't get me wrong, but I like they go from this like weird orchard into like a bone
Hell.
castle. And then
I just remember the horrendously overdubbed line of "Get down here," like or whatever.
Get down.
It was like obviously like a redub or whatever.
It's better than Scorpion in Mortal Kombat Annihilation's tricking our heroes and saying "suckers."
I forgot about that. Yeah,
That sucks.
And the new Sub-Zero's there, but he's his brother.
Yeah, I'm his brother. I'm his brother, Sub-Zero. I don't
That's
wear a
how that
mask.
works.
I'm an anti-masker.
Sadly, we're not here to talk about those movies.
No,
But if
we were
you like
planning
them,
on
you
it,
should go
but-
watch the first one again
Yeah, you
because
should
it's
go watch
probably
it.
still good.
It's a fun 90s movie that originally I think they wanted Steven Spielberg to direct, and he said, "Nah, that's cool."
You know what? I would argue that he probably could have pulled it off. And
Sure.
it probably
Well,
would've been
the
great.
thing was, I think he was playing it because he's a big nerd and he's essentially a child man.
Yeah.
And so he was playing
Which
Mortal
is weird
Kombat.
because all of his movies are kind of dour now. Except for like Ready Player One.
Yeah, except for Ready Player One, which we can keep it.
It's fine.
It's
all right. You know what? I did a review on it and I liked it. I don't love it. I don't need another one, but it's fine.
I could watch it. They got that second book. Ready Player Two. Oh, dude.
What? That doesn't make any sense though. How is there like a is there like a secret other Halliday quest?
I've not read it. It came out and no one cared. Sorry, Ernst Klein.
You seem almost happy about that.
No, I'm just
You're like, oh no.
keep it. But we're here talking about the new Mortal Kombat, a much more serious Mortal Kombat.
Super serious.
A super serious Mortal Kombat. Now we've gotten about 25 years removed from that original Mortal Kombat, so there's new lore, there's new characters, there's new aesthetics. I certainly don't know them all. I barely knew them when we were doing Mortal Kombat 3.
I knew enough of them.
But we are now we now join this movie. What are your we've been kind of quiet about our thoughts on it, sorta. What did you think about this return to Outworld for the most part?
As a culture, we have lost priorities. If someone says
This cuts to a montage of like the last year, people wearing masks, getting their shots, the storming of the Capitol, all this, we've lost priorities.
if the Snyderverse can be constantly downplayed as like not that big of a success, but this movie comes out and people are like, y'all just expect it to be amazing. Sometimes it's okay that a movie is just okay. I'm like, go fuck yourself. This movie, I didn't really have expectations for it because it got delayed so long, and then it just kind of came out all at once.
Yeah, it kind of came out. I was like, oh really? It's
But
out this week?
I've always been excited for like a more serious Mortal Kombat movie. This movie's fine. It's fine. Like it's cool to see like stuff taken with a modicum of like real set design and seriousness. Like whereas Annihilation looks like it's just shot on the back lot. Like there's
Annihilation looks like it was shot in someone's backyard.
yeah.
It looks like there are moments in that where it looks like it's backyard wrestling.
Yeah.
Even the costumes look like it's about to be backyard wrestling.
Yeah. I'll sum up my thoughts here. This movie is a setup for a movie that we actually want to get to later.
That's exactly what this is.
The guy who plays Raiden does nothing. Although
He's a cool Raiden.
I like him as Raiden.
Yes,
It's
he's a
a
cool
very
Raiden.
serious take or whatever, but like he just does
sells it.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I don't have the one thing that everyone else seems to really complain about, I have no problem with, which is this new character, which is Cole
Young.
Which, by the way, is a generic white dude name, but like I have no
but
problem.
He's played by Louis Tan.
Yeah, who is not white, but whatever. But
he's Cole Young. I was surprised they didn't grab a
they might
new major.
They might as well have called him like Chad Michael Vincent or whatever from Rick and Morty.
It kind of reminds me of like all the names you would give to like Jean-Claude Van Damme or
Johnny Cage,
or like Arnold Schwarzenegger back in the day, like
Max Steel or whatever.
John Matrix. Yeah, where it's like, hello, my name is Mark Phillips, and I'm like, no, you're not. Hello, my name is John Stewart. No, you're not. Don't buy it.
But I had no problem with this new character. I have a problem with how quickly he just accepts everything that's happening around him.
Yeah.
The whole hype between Scorpion and Sub-Zero is good, but it's sidelined by the rest of the movie.
So I should go ahead and say my joke I made on social media.
Say it again anyway.
Where I was like, the new Mortal Kombat is like watching this really interesting martial arts fantasy movie about these two warring ninjas, but it keeps getting interrupted by this stupid movie called Mortal Kombat. As time has passed since I saw it, I was actively not liking it as I was watching it, primarily with the main leads. I remember people going around saying like, oh man, Kano's such a blast. And I was like, I hated every line this character said. I rolled my eyes at everything he said. He brings the movie down in a huge way. Sonya has Jack's shit to do, and Jax is gone from the movie pretty fast. I won't say much else.
I didn't hate Kano nearly as much as you did, but I did find him like he grates on the nerves, and like he sells out the world for like money.
Should we get into spoilers? Does this story matter?
Let's talk around it for a few more minutes, and then we'll get into spoilers.
My quick thing about it is like, hey, it's fine, but I'm a little more on the edge of my teeth with that. I'm a little more like
It's fine.
It's fine.
Like when someone says, "Hey man, you want you want to grab In-N-Out burger or McDonald's?" Like, "Oh, In-N-Out's closed." You're like, "Fine."
Yeah, I'll get a 4 for 4. There are moments in this movie that are really fun. There's a lot of fun character stuff.
Kung Lao.
Kung Lao's really fun. I mean,
he gets the best fatality.
Liu Kang's great.
Yeah. Played by Ludi Lin.
Yep. I like that they are not he's not the primary character, main character, which he was in the original movie.
But he's kind of a bigger deal, than a lot of the other ones.
He's the experienced, he's like the experienced guy who's like, hey, come on, I want to show you that. And Kung Lao's kind of like, chumps, I'm the best. Yeah. And I'm like, I like that. That's kind of
Kung Lao. The reason I like Kung Lao is for two reasons. One, he was my favorite character to play when I played all the games. I love that razor hat, and I love that
he gets to use it in this.
He uses
it to somebody. I was like, cool.
I guess this isn't really a spoiler, but like a lot of the people in Mortal Kombat have like special powers. Here we call that Arcana or whatever.
Right. We're giving a little bit of lore to it.
We spend way too much time figuring out that,
because there's one thing that happens in this movie is that these are our three major protagonists, which is Cole Young, our lead, Sonya Blade, and Kano.
Yeah.
Kano is just your Kano walked out of a Guy Ritchie movie. No, he walked out of somebody who was trying to write a Guy Ritchie movie. Yeah. He's worse than that. And Sonya Blade is keeping him around because he's got a dragon mark on him. She doesn't. So we discover that there are dragon marked people, not related to Dungeons and Dragons dragon marked houses, but they're dragon marked people who have to be done for this tournament. Yeah. And
by the way, we should mention we're still keeping the tournament line thing.
Yes.
This is still a tournament in this movie.
There is something I really there is one thing I really like about this movie. Outworld and Shang Tsung and all them are more or less just like cheating assholes and not like the big bad. They're one of like a group of realms, but they're the ones who are the dicks. They're the ones who are cheating. They're underhanded, and they got a bunch of scummy people. I like that take. I like that it's like, we have to defeat Shang Tsung. No, we have to survive. And Shang Tsung happens to be like the guy who's like, I'm going to kill you guys and win. And so he's not like the person they have to go and face.
I don't hate that. Also, like at some point, Shang Tsung rips the soul out of someone's body.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
We do get to see him. So one of my favorite characters in this movie that has become kind of like a dark horse runaway favorite character for a lot of people is Cabal.
Yeah, he's great.
I love Cabal in this. At the point where he's doing that, he looks to I think to Cole Young and says he's gonna suck his soul out. And I was like, that's funny as hell. He says he's gonna start doing his soul sucking. And I was like, I love this character. More Cabal. Cabal was one of my favorite characters.
Yeah. He had the hook swords. I always like to use him when I would play the game as well.
Well, I remember when I was a kid, I got scared of him because one of his finishing moves, he takes his gas mask off and he has a scary, like, large Marge jump scare face. That freaked me out as a kid. I was like, I couldn't be in the same room when that happened.
I feel like
there's
a couple of things in this movie that I'm just like, this is fine, but the problem isn't from the performance. It's from like you wrote it to do this. Yeah. So it's going to be less interesting. Like we're going to do another rewrite the screenplay at the end of this episode or whatever. Yeah. You want to go ahead and get into spoilers?
Let's go ahead and just kind of map the story. So we start in
feudal
Japan. To a guy. I can't remember.
Hanzo Hasashi.
Hanzo, yeah.
Played by Hiroyuki Sanada.
Yeah, he's great. And his family, and they're all there, and then they get attacked by
the Lin Kuei.
Yeah.
Read by Bihan, known as Sub-Zero.
Who he has already become.
Who is played by, oh God, what's the actor's name? Joel Taslim. He's a real like Singaporean martial artist. He's great.
Joe Taslim.
Yeah. He's great in this movie.
Hiroyuki Sanada.
He's great, even though he says like maybe 7 words or whatever. But I think like he said something in an interview, like when you're in a fight sequence, like you don't get lines of dialogue, like the looks on your face and your commitment to the fight is your performance. He sells it. He might sell it better than Hiroyuki Sanada does.
Well, it's so we get this idea that there's been some beef between these clans. Sub-Zero is I think supposed to be Chinese. Obviously,
because they can't understand each other,
right?
Because Hanzo Hasashi's like, I don't understand what you're saying. But
right, he's speaking like Cantonese and he's speaking Japanese, and but his family gets iced literally. So we know that he has superpowers. This fight that they have is really dope. I like this. This is where we first get an idea that like, oh, this is going to be more of an R-rated Mortal Kombat because Hanzo's got he gets the you see his wife using a little Kiwi knife as like a spade in the yard to like dig things, and you're like that I know what that is. Yeah. I know what that's gonna do. And then he wraps it around a rope and starts spinning around. I mean, he's popping through people's heads.
To quote Yu-Gi-Oh, it's his kunai with chain or whatever.
Yes.
But it becomes his spear, essentially.
Yeah. And he's spinning around, slicing dudes up, and it's pretty satisfying.
Yeah,
and
like a lot of the fight
choreography
scenes
at the start.
A lot of the fight scenes are really good. There are 1 or 2 fights where I'm like, that's fine.
Well, this is where the movie got me. Where I was like, oh, you got me in the first, was the start of this. I was really excited. Yeah. I was like, this looks good. This has a lot of emotion in it. This seems really intense.
Raiden comes down at the end with a big old thunderbolt, and it looks cool. And he's like, everything looks like it's all signs are pointing in the right direction. And then they just go like, they just take like have you ever heard the phrase like, if you're like doing a thing, if you move 1 degree to the left, eventually those points just like
completely divert in a different direction. Yeah, it kind of like comes back together in like diamond patterns. Most are revolving around these 2 characters. Yeah. And we cut to the future. Raiden comes down,
takes the baby.
He dies. Hanzo gets killed.
And we see him go to hell.
He goes to hell.
You see the fire take his body or whatever.
We don't know what it is, but we know he's been chosen. He's been taken.
That never really gets explained.
No. Well, they also don't explain why later dude just is like, no, it's been 300 years. My name is Sub-Zero now. Yeah. It's kind of like,
how's he alive?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
A lot of that stuff, like, I don't need to know that really, but like,
So normally that's a who cares, and I let it go eventually. I'm like,
But we don't
it's a Mortal
establish that they
Kombat
can live
movie.
forever.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't know why Outworlders happen
Will Liu
to
Kang
be
die
immortals.
will Liu Kang die in 30 years?
Right.
Sub-Zero still. That doesn't seem fair.
That doesn't seem fair. Like, because at what point did he sell himself out to Outworld and like be like, oh yeah, I work for you now?
Yeah.
Like, did he go to hell first? Did he go to an ice hell?
That's a good point.
It's not that important. We don't have to talk about it too much because it really doesn't get into it at all, and it just doesn't matter in the long run. We cut to modern day, and we cut to Cole Young, who is
past his prime UFC fighter who's
UFC
only about
fighter.
27 years old.
Yeah,
he should have a very healthy career ahead of him. So.
He's the peak of human condition. He's got a wife and a child, or a teenager essentially. So they.
Which means he had sex when he was like 9 years old.
19 at least. But so he's losing the fights and everything, and so he's being stalked by a guy.
Cat Brooks.
Yeah.
He's playing Jax.
And
I will say, like,
for what little he's in the movie.
For what little he's in the movies, he's quite good. Again, it all goes back to we spend way too much time getting our powers, and there should have been like an actual tournament or something, or end the movie. We'll get to it in a second.
We'll get to it because talk about that rewrite. Talk about that rewrite I owe you. That's on the printer. I got the PDF right here. I just got to get the printer button. So Jack shows up and they're at a diner and they're like, oh, let's literally like lick our wounds and like get some ice cream and everything. And
then
Sub-Zero shows up and he's really cool. No, I'm not throwing puns around. Sub-Zero's just really dope in this.
He's awesome.
He shows up and he means business. Like, it
he
starts
rips
snowing.
Jack's arms off by freezing them,
which is, like,
off, and then he pushes him off and he hits like 4 pieces of concrete on the way down.
I was like,
that guy's dead.
Fatality. But it's really cool because it like starts snowing. And I will say this actor playing Cole Young, he delivers this line terribly. He's just like, hey, look, it's snowing outside. I was like, get another take.
Yeah, we know.
You're
or also, edit that out of the movie.
The actress playing your child is doing a much better job of this.
Yeah.
But Sub-Zero shows up. He's kicking ass. He's pretty scary. Like, he's kind of like, this is a way to introduce an otherworldly character into a worldly world. Jax is pretty much like, you need to go to Iowa, Arizona.
Doesn't matter.
You need to get out of wherever city you're in and go find Sonya Blade. And we're like, oh, I know that name. He gets iced.
This is a moment that only happens so we can watch Sub-Zero kick his ass.
Right.
Like, logistically, there's no reason for him to fight Sub-Zero because he has no reason to believe he'll beat Sub-Zero.
Right.
Like,
because what we know is like the rest of the roster of Mortal Kombat, all the Earth Realmers, don't worry about them. They're all dead. Like, if you were looking forward to having Stryker in this, I bet also you ain't gonna have Stryker in this movie.
Also, Stryker's like the lamest character.
Yeah, but also he's a post LA riots cop.
Yeah, he's a police officer.
Stryker's dead, but we're losing, and we're like we're kind of collecting our L's in the Mortal Kombat world. We arrive and Sonya Blade has like a giant conspiracy board and she's following all these people. We see Nightwolf for a second.
Yeah.
Which is kind of neat.
I would have loved it if they didn't do that, because I like the idea of Nightwolf being just like a shaman out there who is also chosen, and he has his own arcana, which is like tied to like his animal spirit and stuff. It's like you could save him for a sequel or whatever.
Which, I mean, like, he could show up. I mean, we don't know.
Well, they imply that he's like dead.
Right.
It's like
it
looks
was
like
a long time
old.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe, you could find a way to screenwrite. He's immortal because of like Indian spirit magic.
Yeah, he's connected to the Native American realm. But also, you could also avoid all that and not do stuff that's like underwritten or underdeveloped Native American mysticism and just not have Nightwolf in it.
Yeah. I would argue there's a cool reason to like you cast a badass Native American actor and you give him like some cool tomahawks and he has a big bloody fight. That's cool enough.
Sure.
I mean, like I extol the virtues of the Magnificent Seven, and they have two Indians like fight each other.
That's true.
As one tries to scalp the other one, but it's still real fun. Like, it's real cool.
But Kano is there too. He's a salty Australian just mate, I'm gonna drop a reference to something. What is this, like a Game of Thrones? Yeah. He does a lot of that, and that's why
are you telling me I'm gonna get a fireball too? Like that's my favorite one. I was just like, that was the one that I laughed at the most. Like, you just shot a fireball at me. Hold on, am I gonna get a fireball too?
There's a really great scene when he finally discovers his power, that it was like the only time I really liked his character, because it's just like it feels natural. Like I was like, ooh, that's kind of interesting for this character. Of course, it doesn't go anywhere because he's Judas.
I just like, they spend so much time with him that it just feels like a waste of screen time.
It was pointless.
Not that like I mind having a wise ass around, but like you just give him too much time,
and then he just turns into a bad guy anyway.
And what does he want? Like, I guess we're heavy into spoilers now at this point. What does he want? Like, Cabal shows up and be like, hey man, you be paid twice as much to just do like half as what you're doing.
Cool.
And he's like, fucking
you talking about money?
And I'm just like, what would you use
money
for when you're in Outworld?
Yeah.
What do they have a kiosk and an ATM? Like, what are you gonna use it for?
Hey Kano, you got some rookie cards back here. Some good stuff too. Kano is also, speaking of the actor who plays Charles Manson, voiced by that guy.
What do you mean?
The actor I was talking about from Justified and from the guy who plays Charles Manson.
Yeah.
That's the guy who voices Kano, or voices
you mean
Cabal.
Okay, yeah.
That's the same guy. I was like, really? That guy's getting some business. He does a good little American accent.
Yeah, because apparently that's not his. That's obviously his voice is
he's dubbed.
Overdubbed. But it could have been the same actor.
That guy.
Yeah.
It's a different. I've looked it up. It's voiced by that guy, which is funny because he's Australian.
It's probably cheaper to just hire a stunt guy to play Cabal, and then you just overdub all his lines.
I mean, they did it with the ninjas in the first one.
Yeah.
So we discover there's a dragon mark. It's passed down through generations. Cole is a direct descendant.
And you only get it if you beat one of their champions, except for Cole, who has it just because.
Because he is like the direct descendant of Hanzo.
Yeah.
And so there are
whatever
times
that means, he's got direct descendant.
Right. He's got like these little flashes where he could see Hanzo in hell, and it's like he's like building up that power, and they're like, oh, well, we have to go and find everybody else, because I think it's been a bit. I think Raiden shows up and stuff, and he's just like,
they go to meet Sonya Blade, and then Reptile attacks.
That's right, Reptile.
And then Kano kills him, and he rips out a tar and goes, "That's a fucking beauty," or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they have to go to find some ancient temple.
I think that's a flawless victory.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, cool. That's okay.
Yeah. They go to the desert, and then Kano.
This is where the movie.
Kano tries to drop kick Liu Kang. Liu Kang rocks his shit, and then they go to the temple, and this is where the movie just slows down way too much.
I would say the movie was slowing down in the desert when we're walking there. I'm like,
you're right,
because this is one thing that kind of annoyed me. Another thing is, like, Sonya Blade doesn't have a dragon mark. She's just kind of along for the ride.
Yeah, and he keeps giving her crap for it. Yeah, but I would argue that if you can capture a person several times who has one of these marks, you've earned the mark.
Which that's just
you could have theoretically killed them. You just chose not to.
Which that sets up exactly where we know it's going. They wander through the desert, and Liu Kang just finds them. He's like, "Hey, I knew you would show up at the desert," and I was like, "Okay."
If you knew there, why did you know?
Yeah, why didn't we get him?
Like,
we could have had this at a different location. Like, they meet up in a little town. He's like,
Why didn't Raiden just come get us with his thunder teleport?
Why don't they take you? He's not Christopher Lambert. Yeah. Why don't they take you in the Raiden Express?
Yeah.
They go to the temple, and at this point, we start meeting some of the Outworld crew.
Yeah.
So Shang Tsung, of course.
I can't remember the actor's name, but he's the guy from The Dark Knight who plays Lao.
Yes. He's kind of great. We just get this one moment when the dude finally says, "No, my name is Sub-Zero," and they're just meeting on like a cool bridge, and he's like,
"Bihan is dead."
Yeah, Bihan is dead. I'm Sub-Zero.
Cool line, but like whatever.
And it's also like neat.
Yeah.
Sub-Zero. Okay. Yeah. It's really stupid,
He's
but I'll let it go.
Do you want me to call you Sub-Zero? like after they cut that scene, he was being like, "So you really want me to call you this?" So like if I'm like getting you a cab or we're going to get lunch, I'm like, "Hey, Sub-Zero, you want to go get lunch?" I can't just say like, "Hey, man," or whatever.
Chen Han is Shang Tsung in this. So Shang Tsung is there. Melina is one of his generals as well.
And then we have Goro and Rico.
Goro and Rico, who I don't know.
Rico was only in like Mortal Kombat like 4, and then he came back later in some of the other ones. But it's weird because
big guy of a hammer.
In Mortal Kombat 4, he's just Shao Kahn in disguise.
Really?
And when you beat the game with him, it's real. He's just Shao Kahn.
He just morphs into Shao Kahn.
But here he's not. So
yeah. He's a jobber in this one.
he's just a guy who's just big.
Yeah. And then Natara is a character that.
Oh, yeah, she's the bat lady.
Yeah, she's the harpy lady. And Shang Tsung spends a lot of time just saying, "Isn't she beautiful? She's my favorite." And she just gets sawed in half. And I'm like, that's kind of great.
And I love that when he does, like, when I see these guys, when I met like Liu Kang and stuff, like they're very like lawful good, and I'm like, these guys, they're not cut out for this kind of fight. And when Kung Lao cuts her in half, it's just like the blood sprays onto his face, and he's just like, yeah. And I was like, that's pretty good.
That's the guy you need for Mortal Kombat.
That's
He'll get the combat,
which it makes sense because like Shang Tsung kills him like 10 minutes later. Like, you take that guy out first, but
because that's another problem with this movie, and I'll just go ahead and put it in right now. We'll talk about it more, but I was anticipating this movie to be more like James Gunn's Suicide Squad, where we introduce a bunch of characters and hardly any of them are alive by the end. No, like they're very precious with these characters.
Almost too precious.
They're almost too precious because, like you said, this is only just a setup for a sequel.
Yeah.
Like even when our villains are vanquished at the end, he just like, ones. I'm going to bring them back.
Yeah.
Like except for... Like, you can almost be certain that Cabal and Melina are coming back in the next movie. Because Shang Tsung essentially is just like, they're joining my army.
Yeah. I mean, like, I did feel like if you're going to do that, like, hold on to some of the bigger favorites. Like, hold on to your Kano a little longer or something.
Yeah. Have the betrayal come in the second movie instead of... But you have to have the moment... So, Kano betrays them. They get invaded by Shang Tsung. Kung Lao gets killed, but they kill the harpy lady, and they're all like, "Oh, we're not in a good way right now." Jax is currently. I kind of like the way Jax gets his power arms.
I do too,
because it's like some arcane it's like some wizard smith work. Yeah. Like they're just like conducting this.
They're weirdly steampunky.
Yeah, and kind of bone-like a little bit.
And then they become futurist. I don't know how the Arcana works. It doesn't matter really. Right. But I want to get to like a couple of my like quick criticisms that we don't have to come back to, but I'm sure you'll agree. Raiden just takes them to like a pocket plane where they can just exist. Just take them there till the tournament. Mm-hmm. Why add that? They promise us, okay, well, Sub-Zero, he's too tough to take one-on-one. We have to work together. And I'm like, great. Yeah. I love a team fight. And then they just don't do it. I'm like, that's dumb.
That doesn't happen. Everyone goes off and fights their own bad guy. Like, everyone gets a bad guy to fight.
I don't inherently hate that.
No, because that's Mortal Kombat.
But if you're going to do that, just do the tournament.
Yeah.
Also, this is kind of a
it's less of a tournament and more of like a blood sport. Like, or more like a hunting people for sport.
But a tournament would be better.
Yeah, it would be more... Yeah, it would be more fun.
You can still set up a sequel with a tournament.
Well, I think that
if you set up that they're going to cheat, in the tournament.
And that makes the stakes higher because if like they're cheating and you lose someone you're close to, that makes you hate the bad guys more.
Yeah. There was another one. Cole's power is apparently just like armor, but he also gets like weapon.
He gets his power and it kind of looks a little bit like Steppenwolf for a second.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I thought that was a character from Mortal Kombat, and I was like, I guess it's not. They just kind of made that up. But he also has no, he doesn't. It's Liu Kang that takes out Cabal and uses it with his animality.
The big dragon
thing, which just kind of sets him on fire. And I was like,
feels like a missed opportunity.
You really need to be eating some heads. Like cutting someone in half, pretty dope. Oh, well, that's because Cole was busy back on our world defending his family against Goro. Goro's a boss in this movie. Yeah. Goro looks great.
He does.
Goro looks great.
You should have saved him for the next one.
I understand.
He should be your trump card. He's your Conor McGregor.
I'm fine with him being in this
because
you
kill
got
him immediately, and I'm like, we're not immediately, but like when he's gone, like we're probably not getting him back.
Well, and I also like when Goro shows up to like the Council of the Outworlders. They're like
Prince Goro.
Yeah, like, oh, what's this? We got Goro in the house. Yeah, a Mondero or whatever his species are called.
There's Shokan.
Yeah, he's like, well, I'm very happy to have a Shokan with us, and I like that. It's like he's like, I'm tapping in.
Yeah,
Prince Goro wants to tap in, and he looks really good.
Yeah, I thought he was awesome.
He fights really cool. This is in comparison of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles thing that was in the original one.
He picks him up and he uses the other two arms to beat him up, and I'm like, yeah, you would do that.
Yeah, you would do that. Especially this beats out the puppet from the original one that gets kicked by Johnny Cage and goes right in the balls.
Yeah,
which is hysterical.
What was I going to think of? I had another little like tiny criticism. God damn it. No. Oh yeah. It would have been nice for Raiden to do like just like one boss thing, just being like, I can't intervene, so I will let you lose. Like I will let you lose. Yeah, Christopher Lambert fucked around in the stuff of Man more than this guy did. So,
yeah.
Like,
such a James Remar, but he also got his neck broken.
Yeah, and then like he also like he's
much more neutral in this. He's not a good guy. He's very strict. He's a very strict master.
He summons a shield.
Yeah.
But he knows that they're going to try to get into the shield.
Yeah.
And they know.
Again, don't think too much about it.
I know.
It's like, how does this shield work? Is it just this hallway? And Shang Tsung's like, wizard work. Because he does. I love that he calls him a sorcerer. He's like, get out of here, sorcerer. They're just throwing sorcerer around like it's a slur.
I'm trying to think of some other, like I'm surprised at how little I have to say right now. I got to think about some more.
Well, there's not much going on in this movie. Like it's not a thinker. Like I was saying, I did like when Kano's at the dinner table and he's being an asshole, and as he gets angrier and gets angrier, his cycloptic eye finally shoots beams. He's like, I got beams. I thought that was neat.
Did he lose his eye? Did he get like a metal eye? I can't remember what happened.
He had a metal eye from the beginning, didn't he?
I don't know. They didn't really set that up.
No, he lost an eye in a fight. Okay. Like before, like Sonya Blade, like apparently like whooped his ass and he lost his eye at one point. Oh. And so this time he gained like a laser eye.
Okay.
Because later he tries to do it to kill Sonya Blade because that thing is pretty lethal. And of course, she could have killed him in a cooler way. She does kill him. She breaks his neck.
Yeah.
But I think that he should have gotten a way more Mortal Kombat death.
Yeah. They're surprisingly skimpy. Like Goro gets kind of disemboweled.
Yeah.
But it feels like
he gets beheaded, doesn't he? Do they behead him?
I think so. But like his guts come out. And
yeah.
stuff. But it feels like
being a little jarred by that because I'm like, a creature like that belongs in like a PG-13 fantasy movie, and then when he starts bleeding, I'm like, oh right, it's Mortal Kombat. Yeah. Like I said, Cabal just gets a stuntman gets set on fire and falls in a lake.
I feel there was an opportunity. Maybe this is like
Raikon gets his head smashed off by
Rico.
Rico gets his head.
Pummel's head.
That was good. That was good. 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, I'll give it that one. I just think that we spend so long trying to figure out the arcana. I think it would have been just way cooler just to be like, you're chosen for a tournament. And he's like, but I don't want to be in this tournament. He's like, what does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. You're in the tournament. Like,
yeah, I think it's like as soon as you get like a dragon mark of some kind, you're like, oh, I can feel something. Because what he's feeling, what he's drawing from is his ancestors' presence, is Hanzo in hell. And eventually when he has to confront Sub-Zero in a pretty losing game, Scorpion shows up. And it's one of the better parts of the movie.
Sure.
Is the actual
would have
fight
been cooler
between them.
if it happened after they're all trying to fight Sub-Zero and you have a big team fight and he mops the floor with them mostly.
Right.
And then Hanzo's like, I came here to kick ass and chew bubble gum.
Right.
And I'm all out of
gum. And then he says, get over here. And I don't remember how that fight goes. It's been a minute.
Oh, a couple of cool. I'll say some nice things now. We see the ice clone.
Yes.
Where Sub-Zero rolls back.
The shadow clone.
Himself.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Apparently, I think they're hinting that because he gets killed at the end, essentially, they're hinting that he's going to become Noob Saibot in the next one. Like
Sub-Zero will?
Yeah. Because I think the original Sub-Zero becomes Noob Saibot, the black ninja or whatever, where he's like all black and smoky.
I always get Noob Saibot mixed up with
Smoke.
Smoke.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're different characters.
And then you throw in like Cyrax and all the robots, and I get more confused because one of the robots is also Smoke.
Yes, that gets confusing as well.
Yeah.
I don't know what the rules are.
And then there's Rain,
Who's the purple one?
who's the purple one,
And there's Ermac, who was the red one.
who I thought was a robot. Ermac's not a robot.
No,
it's only Cyrax and
Sector. And also, like, I am wondering, like, where's Shinnok and Quan Chi?
Shinnok is who I was thinking of. He came from 4, right?
Yeah.
Because who's the bald guy, main bad guy with the big? He looks like something out of Star Wars in Mortal Kombat 4.
He's got the big spikies?
Well, he's got like the big shoulder pads and everything. Like he looks like a skull.
Oh, Shao Kahn.
Was that Shao Kahn in that one?
Well, no, we didn't see
Shao
him in
Kahn's the
this.
one who's got the skull mask. It's the guy from 4. I remember in the arcade.
Yeah.
He had like the pale face and like white eyes and everything and like black markings.
Oh, I think like Quan Chi? Where
Quan Chi. He's the main bad guy of that game,
He's
right?
like Shinnok's sorcerer.
That's right.
And also, I'm wondering, like, where are some of the other, like, good characters? Like, I'm looking, like, because there are other realms. Like, you have Outworld, which is the evil one.
Right.
And then you have Earthrealm. And then you have Edenia or whatever, which is where Katana and them are from. And you have Sado, which is the realm of order. And then you have the realm of chaos, which is just, like...
I think we're saving that for the sequel.
But I was wondering, like, where's Fujin? And, like, where's, like, Boraicho would be kind of cool.
Boraicho would have been neat.
Yeah. Like,
Where's Katana?
I felt like you could have had an opportunity, even if you don't use them, to introduce some of these characters.
Jade, Selena, or whatever.
I'm really struggling to think of more good characters that we haven't already
because most of them
talked about.
the good characters don't really show up until the later games, and you start getting like past Mortal Kombat 10 and stuff like that.
Because like all the good characters that we like that are on the good side would be like a Raiden, a Liu Kang, a Kung Lao. Johnny Cage is referenced at the end.
Yeah, so Johnny Cage. I mean, we might as well say it. Johnny Cage, like they're like, we got to go find more. And he's like, I think I know somebody. And there's a poster for a Johnny Cage movie. Yeah. And so it's like
fans have been protesting like the cast Ryan Reynolds. That's pretty good, I think.
Not bad. I feel like
I feel like if you're getting
I feel like if you get Ryan Reynolds, you kill him off immediately.
Really?
Make it a gimmick. Make it a gimmick thing. Like if it's Ryan Reynolds and be like that, have him do like one fight and he dies really fast. And it's kind of like, oh no. And then they're like, we're out.
No, because people like Johnny Cage. He's a cocky asshole.
Yeah, they like Johnny Cage, but you got to get somebody who's not Ryan Reynolds, because then it feels like a joke.
Yeah.
Which I mean, also I
I
shouldn't have to take Mortal Kombat seriously at the same time.
Yeah,
but.
Ryan Reynolds is too big for the movie.
Yeah, I think you need someone younger. I think you need somebody. Why don't you get one of these UFC guys? Get a pro wrestler.
It'd be fun if they cast like Conor McGregor.
I'd hate that because I hate Conor McGregor.
I'm Johnny fucking Cage.
I'd walk out of the movie. I'd be like, oh, I thought we already had Kano.
What if they ripped him apart though? What if he fights Baraka and Baraka like just cuts his head off and
That'd be
puts it
neat.
on a stick? Like, I don't know.
Why not? Yeah, why not get someone like? Well, why not get someone? I mean, talking about like wrestlers, like people who are really likable. Get someone like Daniel Bryan. Like, do something like that.
I don't know. I don't know.
The riveting tales of Mortal Kombat. There's really not much else to say. The Sub-Zero fight. I almost said the Subway fight. The Sub-Zero fight, and Cole saves his family, who have been in peril for the most part throughout the movie.
I was expecting a bigger post-credit scene of some sort, like where Shinnok or when Shang Tsung has to go to see like Shao Kahn.
Shao Kahn, yeah.
And he's like, "Did we win?" He's like, "No,
not this time,
we
boss.
tried to cheat. We're gonna have to actually win the tournament now." I was like, "All right, I'm fighting then," like or whatever.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
Like he's like, "Fine, all right, get me my gauntlets."
Or something with Raiden.
Yeah, Raiden just kind of is there.
He's a cool, people like playing as Raiden. They want to see him do something.
Yeah, they want to see him like electrocute someone. They turn into bones.
Yeah. Yes. I want to see someone.
I want to
melt.
see someone. I want to see some of these like locations in the original. I want to see like the bridge over the poison pit.
Yeah.
Because we have that. Like, I want to see some of these iconic locations. Like if they do that in the sequel.
I want to see like some more Shaolin temple stuff.
Mm-hmm. Especially now that Kung Lao's gone. Like you've only got the one. Because the game between them is like Kung Lao is like, I'm the master of the Shaolin. He's just like he's just good at it.
He's a journeyman.
Yeah. And then he's dead and he's like, I have to be now like the Shaolin guy. And it's like, yeah, Liu Kang, do that.
Yeah.
You're not the lead character. You can have your own story.
I didn't like that Reptile is just a monster.
Yeah, I wanted him to be a
Green ninja.
Bring a green ninja.
Make him like a reptile-y green ninja.
Or
make him a ninja, though.
Bring a ninja in that happens to also be one of these reptiles. Yeah. They tend to take these human forms a lot.
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah.
Just make him
They're all
kind
elemental.
of reptile-y.
Yeah.
Give him snaky eyes.
Yeah, the way they like blink sideways or something. Because you kind of get that moment where, in the original, obviously in a fatality, Reptile takes his mask off and he spits lizard acid at you. Yeah. But Scorpion takes off his head and it's a skull and he fires fire at you and melts you. And you kind of get that in this movie, but he's more like he just takes his because he's a person. He still is a human, so he's not like I'm a skull. Yeah. He takes like his little thing down and it's just like skull fire. It's pretty dope.
Let's talk.
There are some pretty dope moments in this movie.
There are
in this mostly pretty bad movie.
Yeah, the dope moments are like cool action moments that are good in spite of the scenario, which I don't think should necessarily be happening.
Because it doesn't get to the point where like the original Mortal Kombat, where it reaches so bad it's good levels, where it's like it's corny. Like it's because it takes itself too seriously to be corny.
And I would argue that Sub-Zero fight in the first Mortal Kombat movie is still great.
No, it's great.
And like he makes a ice force field, and the only way he can beat him is he throws water into it as a giant force icicle that impales him. Like that's neat. That's metal.
Yeah,
like,
there are some really great set pieces in that first one because despite all the Resident Evils, Paul W.S. Anderson is a very fine action film maker.
And even like there's like funny moments like Johnny Cage is like walking up that giant fucking mountain, and he keeps dropping his giant suitcases, and he's like, oh god.
Yeah, Lyndon Ashby playing that one.
Yeah. But I felt like we need to get to the rewrite mode because this is what I think should have happened.
It's been a minute since I've had my Mortal Kombat script in my head, so I'm just going to listen to yours. You usually listen to mine.
That's fine. I think what should have happened is you have the fight between Hanzo Hisashi, and the movie starts basically the same.
Right.
You can open it up with Cole Young if you want to, although I would argue he's the least egregious. He's the negative that I had the least problems with. A lot of people were like, why are we following this guy around for the movie?
I say why not? An audience surrogate is fine, but he should be more of an audience surrogate. He should be asking more questions.
And I also think
freaked out by everything going on. That guy's made of ice.
Yeah, and a lot of the Mortal Kombat creators said like Mortal Kombat has always introduced new people. So like I don't have a problem with a new character. So the movie starts the same way. Cole's fighting I don't know,
some
boxer or whatever in that, like the same thing that happens or whatever. And then Jackson's in the crowd and he's watching him. And after he gets his butt kicked in the fight, he gets ambushed in an alley or whatever by a servant from Outworld sent to kill him. You can make it like a minor character, like make it like
Baraka.
Make it like Baraka.
Yeah,
or maybe not like Baraka.
You think it's some guy
but one of Baraka's, like Baraka is a race of species.
Yeah.
But like the actual Baraka can still be
it looks like you walk in, it looks like the Bye-Bye Man. It's like a guy with a big like raincoat, and then as his arms come out, he's got blades on his arms. And it's like, what is that?
And maybe he's fighting him, and then he beats one, gets the mark, and is sucked away to like Raiden because he
accidentally beat a Chosen.
Yeah, and he beats one, and Raiden's like, I don't understand how this guy's here. He looks kind of puny. I don't see how we do it. And then you can still weave those Hanzo Hisashi visions in.
There you go.
You could be like,
I like that.
That was his tether to this other world he doesn't know about. And while he's freaking out, he tries to leave, and Raiden's like, oh no, there's no leaving this place. Like we're like seconds away from doomsday here. We're hunkering down.
And that's why when
then he goes, come out, see what he's made of. And like they have a big actual fight scene. Whereas instead you get like little 2-second clips of fight scenes. Give him an actual fight scene where we actually get to see them fight,
right,
and train. I love a training.
He still
montage.
Loses because he's like, you're not ready. And then when you kill a character like Kung Lao, it has greater stakes because it's like if the best of the best of us can't win, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, get
Cole
to know
Young?
these characters. As a matter of fact, in the beginning, when he's going into this MMA fight, you can make this into an arc later. And you can still have him miss his family or whatever. But the guy says like, oh no, you can't. Like when he says, Cole, you can't win. That requires throwing punches and defending yourself. Because he doesn't really do that.
He's not a good fighter.
But by the way, he does that in the fight. Like,
right.
he's playing defense and he gets him in a hold and then he loses.
It's not like he's like having to deal with Marcellus Wallace. It's just like, hey, you better go down in the fifth.
Yeah.
Like he's just not good for a big buff dude.
Yeah. But I would argue he's probably fine.
I can kick ass.
And Kung
Because
Lao.
eventually it goes beyond just like what your physical abilities are. It goes with your powers. You're overpowering.
And maybe like Kung Lao's
these
training
god
him.
people.
So maybe Kung Lao's training him, and what you could do is like Kung Lao is just too powerful, too skilled, and he's like, I just can't beat you. You're too strong, too fast. And he goes, there's always a way to beat a stronger, faster opponent. Goro, wink, wink. You're setting up an arc that's going to happen later.
Right.
And as they're fighting, he goes, sometimes you have to do the one thing your enemy doesn't think you're going to do. So like instead of like blocking a punch, he lets Kung Lao punch him, and he grabs his arm, and he like headbutts him. He takes the punch to do it, and you could do it with Goro later, where Goro like gets one
where he's got 4 arms on him, and he's like,
and then he takes the hit in order to like win the fight. It's like learning how to fight and be strategic or whatever.
Right.
So that could be like
we don't always get flawless victories.
Yeah, and that happens.
Wink.
And maybe you could do it to where Kung Lao doesn't just die kind of like a bitch, but he kind of dies like in a more self-sacrifice kind of way, where saving his friends by
where he tries to fight Shang Tsung.
Yeah,
he
lures Shang Tsung
just
to the
like,
fight,
whatever,
and gives them a chance to like get away. Get rid of the pocket plane, because it's a big plot hole that I'll just be like,
I even forgot about
why
it.
would you? You would go there whenever you're in trouble.
Right. Shang Tsung can't go there, and certainly his minions can't.
They literally set that up. This is a place beyond their sight or whatever. Okay,
let's just stay here.
Can we just stay here and train? It's the hyperbolic time chamber.
Right.
That's my point. And as he's doing this, his connection with Scorpion is growing. Like maybe he's having like dreams, and the dreams are like a shadowy figure. And like, if you want to win, you're going to have to embrace me or whatever.
You're going to have to embrace a power beyond yourself.
That's
the only way.
You can still have them
world.
discovering their arcana. Like Sonya Blade will be there. Jax, who was watching the fight, will be there. You could still have like
Kano.
Oh, here's a great idea. As they try to cheat, if we're not going to do the tournament, we're going to save that. If they're trying to cheat, Sub-Zero is Shang Tsung and like sends a few of his warriors to infiltrate the society or whatever, or their little society, their temple, or whatever it is. And as they're and Sub-Zero fights Jax and like breaks his arms off in the same way. So the same thing basically happens.
But it happens later and after we've gotten to know Jax.
Absolutely. And then you can still have, I don't know why you'd want Kano there, but like, I don't know what the impulse would be. Well, he's got the mark, so you let Kano hang around or whatever.
Right.
And
because I'm fine with Kano being there. It's just
he just gets too much screen time.
He gets way too much screen time, and they think he's funnier than he is, and that's obnoxious.
Yeah, he's funny about half the time. The funniest part he has is when they're like Kung Lao and Liu Kang give him these old timey insults. You are weak. Like they don't even like make fun of him.
Right.
They just like say
what?
facts.
That's why he gets mad. I like that.
Oh yeah, Sub-Zero like kills Jax or whatever, and he's about to kill like some of the other characters or whatever, and then Raiden
shows up.
Raiden intersects and is like, no, there's not going to be any fuckery around here, and he like puts the fucking hurt down on Sub-Zero, but he can't kill him because he has to follow the rules. Right. Whatever. He goes, the rules are you have to kill someone in a tournament. Jax is still technically alive, so Sub-Zero hasn't broken the rules yet. But that's an idea to set up rules, and you could bring in like the Elder Gods later or whatever.
There's always it's like Shang Tsung and Raiden are like Mickey and Rocky. They're the trainers, but they answer to somebody else. Yeah, and that's the Elder Gods.
And you could do it like as Sub-Zero's about to kill like Sonya or something. Like he sees Cole and he knows who he is. He knows that he's like connected to Scorpion, and he's like, "I'll be seeing you again.
I'll see you later."
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what else could happen after that. Yeah, they do some more training.
You already got a movie.
Cool training montage. They get all their powers or whatever, and they try a bigger. Shang Tsung's people try the attack that they do again.
Right, they try a bigger infiltration.
But this time, Kung Lao sacrifices himself, allowing them to get away, and they still choose to go and fight them individually. Then they come back and try to fight Sub-Zero, and Sub-Zero like beats the crap out of all of them. And then as he's about to kill Cole, don't let Cole and Scorpion fight. Scorpion takes over his body and is like summoned in a time of need back to fight Sub-Zero.
And so he gets to be Scorpion.
And then he kills him or whatever. Right. Like that because Scorpion is a specter.
Right.
He's like a lost soul, literally. So like
he comes from hell.
Yeah. So I think that would have been like at least a more satisfactory movie that has
it more.
That has character arcs.
Yeah, I like it more.
It's my best effort, okay? Yeah. I only work with what I'm given.
And we're given Mortal Kombat.
Hear me, James Wan. I'm not a miracle worker.
Please. Yeah, drink some water real quick.
I'm terrible.
There's really not much else to say. Like you have pretty much stated from the very beginning of this is all just a sequel setup. This is all just, hey, you like this Mortal Kombat? We got more combating to come, and it's going to be more mortal, and it's going to be more combat. They played it very safe in this.
Yeah, for a movie that's so about like this is Mortal Kombat.
It's
this very kind of safe.
They played it very safe.
They kind of give you all their, and the last fight between Scorpion and Sub-Zero is good.
Yeah,
there's
great.
Summoning walls of ice. There's a part where he slashes and freezes his
blood and uses the spear.
It.
That's some Mortal Kombat stuff. I like that.
But it's very sparing.
Yeah,
how quickly they utilize it, and I would have liked. Like when
I would have liked a little more
because
brutality.
the movie starts at a pretty good high.
Mm-hmm.
When Sub-Zero rips Jack's arms off, I was like, that was boss. Mm-hmm. And then like he doesn't really do anything like that for the rest of the show.
No, because they kind of keep him out of it so they can introduce other characters, and it's like, this is your golden boy here. Like, send him out; he'll get the job done.
Yeah, and at the end of the,
Milana like is pretty intense, but like shouldn't get to do that much.
Yeah, and I would argue. Don't kill all of them.
Well, and also
we'll leave one or two of them alive. And kill Rico because who gives a fuck?
Right.
Kill the Bat Lady.
Yeah.
But like leave Melina alive.
Mm-hmm.
Leave you can even have like Sub-Zero cheat his way where they beat him but they don't kill him.
Right.
Or whatever. So we can still have him for the sequel for like a real rematch, 1-on-1 against Scorpion.
But I think that they're going to come back in some way because there's that scene where Shang Tsung is just like, I'm no longer building like a group of fighters. I'm going to build an army.
Which makes me feel like they're not going to do a tournament though.
Yeah,
which is bullshit.
Is like, and this is not Mortal Kombat. Yeah. This is Mortal Kombat. The real-time strategy game.
Yeah,
this is Mortal Kombat and Conquer.
And I wouldn't necessarily
Mortal Command and Conquer.
And what I would like it would be a better post-credit scene instead of like we're gonna go find Johnny Cage. You can still have that. Do another one where we release our lineup for what the tournament will be, and like Raiden goes to meet the Elder Gods, and like you have the Realm of Order, you have Outworld, Earthrealm, Edenia, and you mentioned like
one from each,
like pick 4 from each,
yeah,
and they will be your fighters. And from Edenia, you'll have Katana and Fujin and Kai or some of those characters. I'm trying to remember the people who come from Sado. What was the blind samurai guy? What was his name? Kenshi?
I think so.
He was cool. You can use him.
He's got the wrapping around him.
Yes, he's literally like a blind samurai. Onaga. That's just the big dragon guy.
Who's like the big
Quan Chi could be from one of them. I don't know.
Drunken fighter guy.
Boraicho.
Yeah, Boraicho would be fun.
He would be from. So he's from Earthrealm, but he's the guy that kind of trains the first Kung Lao, because the Kung Lao in this movie is not the Kung Lao.
No,
because it's a different Kung Lao or whatever. But like, you could like if we're gonna just screenwrite your way to bring back these characters that we like or whatever.
When I think that
maybe Raiden could be like, well, if they're gonna bend the rules, so am I. And he brings Kung Lao back or whatever.
And then and then in this next movie, make it a Suicide Squad sort of thing where we just get killing these characters.
Yeah, one half tournament, one half
character building.
Suicide Squad,
right?
Because I want some of the good characters to die,
right?
Like
stakes.
I want to like feel bad when like if Johnny Cage dies or whatever. That's why I wanted like Kung Lao was my favorite, and he dies just kind of like wastefully,
right?
But I would have loved it if he died like in a more self-sacrifice kind of way, because at least
still
keep something.
Keep that Mortal
you can
Kombat
still kill him
brutality.
You can put your arm through his body or whatever.
Right.
Like I don't care. He's not real.
I know some people who were really upset when Johnny Cage did not make it through the first 10 minutes of Annihilation.
Yeah,
they're like, no. It's like, it's okay. It's not even the same person.
You know what's hilarious? Like Raiden threatens him and is like, well, then I will take your generals. And he puts lightning around Montaro. That's another one you can bring around. Ermac and all the other ones.
You got a lot of ninjas in your group.
You better bring some more ninjas next time.
Yeah, and some robots. I'm fine with
and robots.
Bring some robots.
Jax has robot arms.
Yeah,
you've established the technology exists.
So you got some evil robots.
But in fact, the Realm of Order. I don't know where Sector and Cyrax come from, but you can.
They're Outworlders.
could you make some of them robots from like the thing about Sado, the realm of order, is they often unite with other worlds to defeat Outworld, but they're kind of fascistic. Everything has to the clock has to run on, the trains have to run on time, if you know what I mean. They're overbearing or whatever. So you can have like robots be some of theirs because like robots obey. And then there's two characters from that realm that are pretty cool that I remember liking. They were from like what was Deadly Alliance and the other one?
Mortal Kombat.
Something Dragon King. The sequel to Deadly Alliance.
Deadly Alliance.
Yeah,
Deadly Alliance I remember because that was on PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Xbox.
Yeah, and
There's so many of these games, dude.
I know. Those characters could be characters that come back or whatever. But yeah.
The Mortal Kombat.
But you can set up your lineup. But I want some of those characters to die. Like I want like
that's. I mean, we're so used to watching these characters bite it all the time because it's these games.
Yeah.
Like to us, it's not like, it's not like, oh no, Liu Kang is dead. It's like, no, Liu Kang's dead for this round, and your brother's gonna be like, you cheated, like.
Yeah. But yeah, you better bring some more ninjas in the next one. I don't really have much to say. You want to move on to recommendations? The movie's fine.
Movie's fine.
If you're
a big Mortal Kombat fan, you're probably gonna like this movie,
Sure.
or maybe you will want more out of it, much like we did.
And I'm actually not a big Mortal Kombat fan. I just have a good memory. I remember some of the mythology.
I'm more of a Street Fighter person. Like Street Fighter characters stand out to me more. I would love, but also you can't really do a Street Fighter.
I'm holding out for a great Tekken movie. I think they made one, but it wasn't.
You made
good.
it, yeah, dude. They've made secret Tekken movies. They've made secret Dead or Alive movies, and you didn't even know they happened.
I just want to know. I knew the Dead or Alive one. But I want. I want to see.
They made that.
I want to see Eddie Gordo in a fucking.
Who's my dude from that? Was who's the kickboxer? Who's the guy who does capoeira?
Eddie Gordo.
That's Eddie Gordo.
Yeah.
Oh well, who's the Korean kickboxer?
Oh, are you thinking of what's his name? Warang or whatever? Is he like the orange hair,
Harang,
white face? Yeah,
Harang. Yeah, that was my favorite. Was Harang.
Cool.
Harang's
he's
great.
the fast. I always fight with the fast characters. Like,
Vega.
Yeah,
we're talking about Street Fighter.
Whenever I play Soul Calibur, I play the weird mummy guy who's hard to figure out what he does.
Voldo.
Yes,
Voldo's great. Soul Calibur would. Soul Calibur's more of like anime. You'd have to make that.
Soul Calibur 2 would make sense. Darth Vader's in it. Like it would. Darth Vader just shows up.
One of my favorite old internet pictures of all time is Darth Vader holding the Soul Calibur and the Soul Blade, and it just says "fucking stupid." It's one of the best pictures ever.
Why? They didn't like it?
Well, because it's Darth Vader holding the Soul Calibur and the Soul Blade, and it's just like, this is dumb. I think it was more endearing, like, this is absurd.
Well, Link is in one of them. Like, Heihachi from Tekken is in the other one.
And Spawn, if we're talking about that 3, because that was GameCube, PlayStation 2, and Xbox.
That red cape.
That came out in 2004. Yeah, that was the first one I ever played. That's what we all played. Was
those are good games.
GameCube
I like those games.
Yeah. But yeah, you couldn't do a movie of them, and
I would play Raphael because he's an asshole. He's a cocky son of a. He has the rapier or whatever.
I liked the guy with the bow staff, like Maxi.
Keelik. No, Maxi is the nunchucks. Keelik.
Oh, Maxi is the one I like playing as, and Sophia, or one of the Italian sword girls.
Yeah, I think they're Greek.
They're Greek. Yeah,
they have a sword and like a round Greek shield.
Yeah, Sophia or something like that.
Who's the big guy with the sword with the eye on it? Is it Nightmare or whatever?
Nightmare. He's the guy that reminded me of Raycon or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
There's that and Astaroth.
Excuse me. Anyway, fighting games are fun, and that's probably why this got made. Because
Cervantes,
NetherRealm, he's just a pirate, man.
He's just a ghost pirate.
NetherRealm kind of revolutionized fighting games when they rebranded Mortal Kombat like 5 or 6 years ago, and they did like the Injustice games, which are also like mwah. So like, I'm happy this got made. I just hope the next one is just a little more. I care a little more.
Yeah. Yeah,
and do a tournament. We like tournaments by their nature.
We like tournaments. Show some tournaments. I want to see some blood on the fighting floor. And I would love if it was something like different stages, like we go to different places, like different cool locations.
Yeah, like
have
you get sucked to Sado, the Order realm, when you have to fight one of their dudes or whatever.
Because that was one of the things that stood out to me the most of watching those games is like the background. Like I remember seeing like Mortal Kombat 3.
Punch someone through the ceiling and have a man just lean his head in and go, whoopsie, or toasty or whatever.
Or they kick him and they go down like a shaft and fall into some spikes.
Yeah.
That's iconic. because I remember like seeing stuff like whenever I would go to Aladdin's Castle here in town that's been long gone at the mall. And I would see like the arcade box for Mortal Kombat 3, and I would always look at the backgrounds. Like there was like a wooded area with trees that had like faces on them, and like
I remember that.
All these like spooky locations. And I was like, this is neat.
Yeah. Or you know what you could do to make that happen is you could make the tournament less alike. Because I don't know, like who's the board of directors that decides who fights who? You can make it like a challenge. Whoever challenges who.
Well, that's how it was in the first movie. And that original one was like you can challenge anybody to Mortal Kombat anytime. That's why like Scorpion just walks up to Johnny Cage, is like, "Hey, Johnny Cage, let's fight." And he's like, "Oh, fine, I guess."
So like, you can make it like if you challenge someone, then you have to fight
on their terms,
on their turf, because you're challenging them,
right?
Or whatever.
And you can go to like any place in time and stuff like that.
I don't know about time.
Well, any place in like the realms. Yeah.
That'd be cool. See, we're already making better ideas. Hire us, Warner Brothers.
We got it.
Let's talk about recommended real quick.
Okay. I have to think about that.
I can recommend mine first because I was actually surprised at how much I liked it. I can't remember who the director is, but I feel like it was really good. I watched, the movie's called The King, and it's with Timothée Chalamet and Robert Pattinson and Joel Edgerton, and it's about Henry the Fourth in the Battle of Agincourt.
Yeah, that's Henry the Fifth.
Is that Henry V?
Yeah, Henry V. Yeah, that was Battle of Agincourt.
Yeah,
that's the Band of Brothers.
Yeah,
the St. Crispin's Day. That's Henry V.
Yes,
that's Henry V.
So I watched
Shakespeare.
Timothée Chalamet plays Henry V. Joel Edgerton plays, I can't remember his name. He's a very famous, I think, real knight that existed, who was kind of the reason that the battle went well. Whatever. Robert Pattinson plays the Prince of France.
He plays not Paris. I
can't remember.
I'm going to look it up because these are all characters from Shakespeare as well. But while you do that, I'm going to look up what I want to recommend.
Yeah. So Timothée Chalamet.
Oh, he's Falstaff.
Sir John of Falstaff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's Falstaff. Falstaff's great.
Robert Pattinson plays the Dauphin, which is like the Prince of France. Sean Harris plays William something. Ben Mendelsohn.
Gascoigne.
Yeah. Ben Mendelsohn plays his father, who plays King Henry IV.
Yeah. Robert Pattinson plays the Dauphin. Yeah. These are all characters that are in the
Shakespeare play.
The Henry arc of the Shakespeare plays, because there's Hotspur, Henry Hotspur, the Archbishop of Canterbury. Okay, so you've already got my interest then, because I'm a big Shakespeare guy. So Queen Philippa.
It's kind of a nice subversive take on history in a way, but it basically starts with Henry V is like a disgraced prince who just goes around drinking and doing.
That's what happens.
Yep. And that's in,
he has the end of Henry IV.
Yeah,
is that arc? Young Henry or young Hal going around drinking with John Falstaff and being a troublemaker.
Yeah, and he has a younger brother, and it starts off with like
Hotspur. I think.
It starts off with like Ben Mendelsohn's character has been at war with the Scottish, and we open up with like on an ancient battlefield where Percy, I think is their cousin, or whatever, has sees like a guy crawling away on the ground, and he's like, "Oh, you're going the wrong way." And he's like, "You're heading towards England." He goes, "Scotland's that way." And then he kind of just like looks around. He's like, and he just picks up a sword and like stabs him to death. Oh, you can tell he didn't. You can tell he didn't want to.
Right.
He's like, people have seen him, which means I can't let him go, or people are like, "Why'd you let him go?" or whatever. And then the next scene is Ben Mendelsohn comes into like a room, and they're all having dinner, and he's the king, and he looks very sickly or whatever, and he's very upset because Percy's cousin has been kidnapped by the Welsh and is being held captive or whatever, and he's very mad that Henry IV is not doing anything to get him back because he thinks he's a traitor and went there on purpose or whatever, which leads him to rebel against the crown or whatever. And because of that, in between that, Henry V comes to meet his dad, and his dad basically just summons him to like look at him and be like, "Nah, you're still a disappointment. I'm going to pass the throne to your brother, even though he's younger. He would be a better king than you." And then his younger brother goes to war with Percy to like show his dad what a badass he is or whatever. And Henry shows up just to like be like, "You shouldn't do this. He's going to be dead soon. There's no reason for us to like put our lives on the line for any of this or whatever." But his younger brother is very upset because this is supposed to be like his moment of glory, and little needle arms Timothy Chalamet shows him up or whatever, and kills him essentially. He gives Percy an opportunity to like say like, hey, he'll be dead soon, and when he's not dead, we'll fix your grievances, I promise. And then he goes, I don't believe you. And he goes, all right, well, let's fight then. They have the funny like. Timothy, somewhere along the way, someone decided that Timothy Chalamet is an action star.
Yeah, that's.
I don't know when it happened.
That's kind of like when I'm seeing, what's his name, Spider-Man.
Andrew Garfield? Not
No,
Andrew Garfield. Tom Holland.
Tom Holland as Nathan Drake. I'm like, not my choice. No. Rugged is not what I see when I see Tom Holland, but I'm open to be impressed.
Probably be better than this.
I think Tom Holland could probably beat up Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah, I do too. But that's not.
But that's neither here nor there. He's also gotten to be Spider-Man. Timothy Chalamet is just been like indie actor.
Yeah. But they have a fight, and then everyone sees him win. So his little brother gets mad. He's like, "This is supposed to be my glory, and I'm going home." And he's angry. And because he's so upset, Percy goes off to the Welsh to fight them, and he gets killed in battle. And then his dad dies, so he becomes king officially.
Yeah, Hal becomes king.
And as soon as he becomes king, a bunch of little like. In the end, we'll get to it or whatever. But like, as soon as he becomes king, the first thing that people are thinking of is like, how is this drunken whoremonger going to lead like a nation?
They have to lead a campaign to make him a leader.
Yeah, and he leaves John Falstaff at like an inn, and he's like in debt, and it's kind of sad. Joel Edgerton. Like, he's not the main character of this movie, but he's a producer and a writer on it.
I saw that, yeah.
And he's really good in this movie. In fact, he might be the character
one of the most legendary Shakespeare characters. He shows up in all the Henry
ads. I believe he's a historical figure. Yes. He was a real person.
He's a real person. But he has this legacy in Shakespeare. Like, he shows up in, I think, Merry Wives of Windsor as well. Like, he shows up in a couple of non-history plays. Okay. He's just a character Shakespeare really likes playing with, which is just the sad former knight, the drunken fool who is a hero.
Yeah. He's
usually played by older men in theatrical productions.
Yeah, Joel Edgerton, I think, put on some weight to play him because he looks a little bit portly when
he's supposed to be.
Which, by the way, like I'm not making fun of him.
He's an actor.
I've seen Joel Edgerton and be ripped as well. He's King Arthur.
When I think about Joel Edgerton, I think of ripped Joel Edgerton.
Yeah, or I think of like him as he's also like that guy's good. I haven't seen a movie where he's not good. And Comes at Night, he's great. Bright, even if you don't like that movie, he's great as an crop.
Comes at Night, that's a rough one.
It is, but he's good in it.
He's good in it.
Yeah. But like, or like he directed that movie with Jason Bateman, The Gift or whatever, or something like that. I can't remember what it was. It's like a thriller or whatever. He's good, man. But in this movie, like, so as soon as he becomes king, Robert Pattinson, the King of France or the Prince of France, sends him like a ball.
Yes. He sends him he sends him essentially a basketball. Or a tennis ball. It's a tennis ball.
As if to say, you're a child, here's a toy to play with. Yep. He doesn't even think anything of it, but everyone else is like, this is a horrible slight against you.
Yep.
And you should respond in kind or whatever.
Is the dialect in Shakespearean prose or is just natural?
It's not Shakespearean prose, but it's also very Old Englishy.
Okay. Because I mean, they're literally just.
For example,
when
we meet Joel Edgerton, Timothy Chalamet like passed out on his bed to sleep or whatever, and he goes like, "How?" or whatever. He like opens the door and he goes, "What?" And he goes, "The door was like, why are you in here?" And he goes, "I've cut myself. The door was ajar or whatever, so I came in." And he goes, "The door was not." And he goes, "The door was ajar or whatever." Like it's just the right balance. If it was in Shakespearean prose, I would feel like no one would be able to connect with the movie as good as it is, because I actually ended up liking the characters a lot for several of them for different reasons.
Well, I think Henry V might be one of Shakespeare's best written.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying like there are a certain segment of the population that they go like when they hear Shakespearean prose, they're like, no, I can't.
Right.
Like I love Macbeth. I think it's one of the best plays ever written. But I'm like I could tell you how it's an action movie just 500 years ago.
Right.
Like I'll have no words. My voice is in my sword. It's a boss.
It's
line.
a great line.
Yeah. So anyway, but
to hell's
everyone is really pushing Hal to like, you need to respond to the King of France or whatever.
Right.
And then I can't remember what he does. What is he does something.
The Dauphin.
Yeah. To like
I kind of need to see this because I want to see Robert Pattinson in this role.
It's really great. He's like,
because he's not in it much. Like
he's
in the play,
he's in it for like 3
Dolphin's
scenes,
not
but
in
he's
really.
kind of scary, but also like
in that Robert Pattinson way.
Well,
because Robert Pattinson can be kind of.
I don't know how much I want to ruin, but like there's a part where they meet him. Like eventually I can't remember exactly what happens.
I mean, you can't really ruin it because I know how the play goes.
Fair enough. Yeah, you know, Battle Magic credits.
Right.
But there's a part where they eventually convince him to go to war with France.
Yeah.
Essentially, and he begins his campaign, and he convinces John to. Oh, I remember what happens. 2 of his members of his court conspire against
the
him.
Archbishop.
Yeah,
the Archbishop and ones conspire against him because like it's a losing match. We got to side with France.
Yeah, and they say
that's at the beginning of Henry V. Like that's the opening.
And just after that, and he has them killed because he knows they were like besmirching his name behind his back. Mm-hmm. And then a few days later, someone goes to what was the character's name? William of Gascoigne or whatever.
Gascoigne.
Yeah, and tell him like. There's a man here from France who wants immunity, and he says he was sent by the Dolphin to kill you. He's an assassin sent here by Robert Pattinson to kill you. And he goes like, this is a threat that must be answered, or whatever. And he goes, well, of course France will deny it. And he was like, but like they wouldn't have denied it if they got through with it. They basically convince him to go, all right, we're at war with France. He asks John, who he hasn't seen for several months, to come to war with him. And there's a lot of there's a really great scene where after Timothy kills, after Henry the Fourth or Fifth, Henry the Fifth, Timothy Chalamet kills Percy, right. And he's really like not taking it well. And John comes to him and is like, "There's few things that make a man feel as wretched than standing victorious on a battlefield or whatever." And it's talking about like he's a lot of the people around King Henry are like these men. They feel like they're these men of action, but they've never really seen like war, like hard fucking war.
Right.
And John has. And he eventually, when he goes to France, he goes to the end that he's at and in debt, like pays his debts and like, will you come to war with me or whatever, just and give me your counsel. And he says yes. And when he's meeting the other lords, they're like, who's this smelly fucking
who's this barman?
And he goes, this is Sir John Falstaff. He's like, everyone knows his exploits. He's a warrior renowned or whatever. And he goes, he's seen the blood of battlefield and detests it as only any right man can or whatever. And they go to war, and he's very frustrated because when they're on the campaign, John says almost nothing. And then he gets really frustrated with him. And he's like, well, we're at battle. And he goes, I only speak when I think something needs to be said or whatever. And he gets really frustrated with him. And he threatens like, well, I'll have your head cut off and put on a spike. Like, I'm here for you to help me.
Counsel.
And you're not helping me.
Right.
And then eventually, the very next night, Robert Pattinson pays them a visit because they arrive at a castle and it's just abandoned or whatever. Mm-hmm. Or it's not abandoned, but they've sealed themselves inside and they siege it and they win it. And then Robert Pattinson comes to visit them, and he has this really fun scene-chewing performance where he goes like, I have come to tell you what I am going to do to you and your men. Your screams will lull me to sleep at night, or whatever. He has a very, like, he's quite the dandy, but there is like a weird serial killer vibe to him at the end, which is kind of fun.
That's what you bring Robert Pattinson in for.
There's a great scene where like he's telling him all these things. What he's gonna do is like, I'm gonna cut your big balls but a tiny cock off, and then I'm gonna feed him to you or whatever. And he goes like, this is like, what do you say to that, huh? And like everyone's just very quiet. Timothy Chalamet is kind of intimidated. John Falstaff just laughs. He goes like that, and like Robert Pattinson sees him, and he's like, this guy wouldn't last like 5 seconds on a battlefield, like with a sword in his face or whatever.
He knows how to throw this, but all he has to surround himself by his
But it's a very
soldiers.
funny way. And then what happens later, this is the really fucked up scene, is like they're at a encampment, they're deciding what to do. Timothy is still mad, and he wants to kill all the French prisoners. John literally tells him, he's like, I want you to get the men ready to move and put all our French prisoners that we took from that city and put them to the sword. And he goes, I will not do that. And he goes like I'm the king, you'll do as I tell you. And he goes, you are my king and I'll follow you. He's like, but I will not be doing that. And he goes, then I will have you killed. And he goes like, you will not be doing that either. Like, I love that he just calls him on his bullshit all the fucking time.
He's like, you're just bluffing, Hal.
Yeah,
you're just bluffing.
And he's trying so hard to be like, I'm King Henry V, but this kind of
this man of experience
man.
is like, you're not king yet.
Yeah.
Well, you got a crown, but you're not king.
And then a great reversal happens as they go to Agincourt, and the French, he tells a rider, ride up to that hill and tell me what you see. And there's just a fucking bunch of French soldiers and mounted cavalry. They're outnumbered like 3-1 or whatever.
Yeah,
and he comes back, and all of his men are like, this is bad. We're going to lose. We're going to lose big time.
Yeah, we're all going to get slaughtered.
And then he asked everyone this, and they all seem to have come to the agreement. It was like, you can't win. And then John's finally, like, for the first time, like, said something in the middle of military council. And he goes, you can win this battle. And everyone's like, what? Like, they're all, like, upset with him. And he goes, it's going to rain tomorrow. The ground is going to be muddy and soggy. Lure their cavalry in. They'll get stuck. Use your longbows and level the field.
Yep.
And he goes, that's a terrible idea. And he goes, like, someone would have to lure the cavalry in. And he goes, I'll do that. And, like, so John takes, like, 600 men and armor and pikes, and they march into the muddy field. And it is a harrowing battle. It's not particularly... Like, I part of me wishes as I was watching it, like, that it was cooler, like kind of better choreography, or
the Battle of the Bastards kind of vibe.
Maybe just like better fighting. It's a lot like battles back then were just like,
I mean,
hoping and praying. You're in armor,
give it up to our archaeologists out there and historians who realize like
everything.
Well, or to make it even more like, thank goodness you weren't there, because I mean, mostly it was just like people overweight in armor,
elbow room, just waiting to die.
Just mostly punching people and then just accidentally getting stabbed.
There's a part where like
and you don't die instantly from just getting stabbed.
You die horribly over the course of an hour if your face isn't smushed into the mud,
right? And you drown, or you just get infection. And no,
there's a part where he warhammers a dude in the face, and I was like, that must have been horrible.
Yeah, but at least you'd be out of there quick.
But because of that, like then they're in the. As they're charging, they like ran a bunch of arrows down and like sever one half of the French army from the other, and they charge in, and they slowly but surely take the day. There's a really nice single take where tiny Timothy Chalamet is fighting through this battle, and you realize that like I watched a video the other day about like the myth of Agincourt and could arrows puncture plate metal, and they had people recreate bows to the best of their historical knowledge,
right?
Was
of
available
those original English
and like the
bows.
arrows are like as thick as this mic stand.
Yeah,
they're thick fuckers.
They're missiles, like.
And a guy shot like a 160-pound draw bow to like a piece of plate steel, and it wouldn't puncture it.
Really?
That's the crazy thing about it. So like, I'm not saying it didn't happen or whatever, but there might be like some mysticism that have hyped it up.
Shakespeare did a lot with making this into a legend.
Oh yeah, and we do get a Henry speech.
Yeah, the St. Crispin's Day speech.
I don't know how much of it is.
I don't think they probably. I don't. If it sounds like they probably didn't do beat for beat.
No, but he says make the space between you, England. You make it flesh, make it sinew, or whatever. So that stuff's in there.
Does he do the classic? We brave few, we band of brothers.
No.
See that's big
Shakespeare.
That's the big line from that. Yeah. On this day, the St. Crispin's Day.
And then so we get to like the end of the battle where the Dauphin comes to the battlefield and he meets. King Henry, and like he pulls a sword and he goes like and he looks very intimidating, and they're about to fight and he just starts slipping on all the mud, and it's a fucking joke. And then Hal just throws his sword down and his men just murder him. And it's like it's not particularly gruesome, but you don't see what happens, but like it's pretty obvious like they just kill him.
Right.
And then he takes his army up to the King of France's castle, and they win, and he surrenders France, and he goes, "You'll marry my daughter," blah 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 blah. Yep. And then a few days later, he's talking with the daughter of France that he's about to marry, and she goes, "You're an idiot." And she goes like, "There never was any assassin or anything like that. It's like my father doesn't do assassins." He goes, "My stupid brother was just a fool, but he's not a murderer." And then he confronts William about this because he's the one who told him about it, and they have this tense scene where you realize it was all bullshit.
Right. There was no confrontation. He just pushed him over the edge to go to war.
He makes him like he's getting like fitted for like a nice pretty dress or whatever, and he makes him stand on the table as he confesses to it or whatever, and then he's like, well, what are you complaining about? Like, I made you the most popular king of England. And he comes out and he just like stabs him in the neck, and then like he dies instantly, and then the movie ends. And I was like, Jesus Christ, this movie, like the movie takes a hard left turn at the end, and I was like, I wasn't expecting it.
That's a lot of people don't remember that about Henry V is that there's that whole denouement, that whole final part where it's like after they win the Battle of Agincourt, and it's just like then he has to get married to there's in the play there's like a whole segment that's just in French. And it's about how like Henry can't understand his wife because he doesn't speak French.
There's a little bit of that, but like they have a thing where they make fun of that, where she's like, I don't speak English, and then she starts speaking English, so she's just fucking with him.
Yeah,
all the time. Like there's a little bit of that. It's a good movie.
I'm gonna watch it. I want to check that out.
I wish it was more like this movie is less historically accurate, but I think it's more fun. The Outlaw King.
That's a fun movie.
That's a good movie.
That's a fun movie. It's been a minute since I've seen that, but that's a fun movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of historical inaccuracies in it. There's no yellow. Well, they said like yellow was the common dye in Scotland at the time.
Like, it couldn't.
But I'm be like, I don't care about the yellow. I don't care. But it's a good movie. Check it out on Netflix, man. It's a lot of fun. Joel Edgerton, a lot of people are good in it. Joel Edgerton like quietly steals it from everybody.
I'm not shocked.
Timothy Chalamet struggles with a pan-European accent that is neither English nor American. Like, it's weird. And it's not his fault. Not everyone can do one.
Right.
Or whatever. But, like, even despite that, there are parts where I really feel kind of bad for him and stuff. And that a lot of these people just lied to him as soon as he became king. So, it's good stuff.
Yeah, it's a great... It's I've seen a couple productions of Henry V that stick out to me. I'll have to watch that because I like that. That was a big one. The only thing that comes to mind is I'm going to keep it really short. I don't have much else to really recommend other than like.
By the way, that's 20 minutes ahead. I started at 20 minutes in. See.
Okay. I guess since we're talking about Shakespeare real quick, I'm almost certain I've talked about Coriolanus before, right?
This is the one with Ralph Fiennes?
Yeah.
Ralph Fiennes? And Gerard Butler? I know I have a loose understanding of what the play is, but you can give me the...
So I think you should check it out.
Didn't he direct it?
He directed it.
Ralph Fiennes directed it?
Directed it, yes. It is actually a straight from the script adaptation of the Shakespeare play, but it's set in a modern setting. And essentially, it is one of the Roman plays. So Shakespeare wrote a series of Roman plays.
Titus Andronicus.
Titus Andronicus, of course, was one of the big famous ones. Julius Caesar, of course, is one of them. Merchant of Venice, Othello. Those are all the Italian plays.
Yeah.
But
Othello is Italian.
Yeah, set like low Italian, like near Sicily. A lot of them are set there because he just loved Italy. Of course, everyone loved Italy at the time. But this is another one of the history plays. And Coriolanus was a general that went to war and came back a hero and essentially was given given the Senate. Like he was given this like powerful leadership position.
Is that a true story? Like a true figure?
It's a Shakespeare story. Okay. But I think Coriolanus was a real person. It's been a bit since I've looked into it.
A lot of Shakespeare's plays have this way of melding fact and fiction.
Yeah, that's why that's why you get the et tu Brute is because like he wrote that and everyone's like, oh, he must have said it.
I hope it really happened though.
Yeah,
it's such a good idea
because that's why it's like, hey, it's a good idea. Let me see, Coriolanus.
That was
yeah, no, it is based on Caius Marcius Coriolanus, who was a
addendum here. That's my favorite joke from Aladdin. He's flipping through the book. Genie's flipping through the book of how to make a prince. And he goes, et tu Brute.
Yeah,
a knife comes out. I didn't know what that meant until I was an adult.
And you're like,
So clever.
Let's see. I want to find that. So essentially, it's a modern version of this. Ralph Fiennes plays Caius Marcius. He's got a very close family. He's got children. The very famous redheaded actress whose name I can't remember at the moment plays his wife.
Isla Fisher.
No,
Amy Adams.
No, close. Oh, I got it right here. It was also written by John Logan, who's done a bunch of stuff. John Logan. Yeah, he wrote the screenplay for it, and Ralph Fiennes directed it. Jessica Chastain
wrote the screenplay. Mm-hmm. Don't you mean like
Shakespeare wrote the screenplay? He adapted the screenplay. Yes. Ralph Fiennes directed it. Jessica Chastain. Vanessa Redgrave plays Coriolanus' mother, who is kind of like his one of his advisor characters, sort of like the one that's like working politics behind the scenes. And Brian Cox plays his advisor and brings in a really good performance. Gerard Butler comes out of nowhere in this movie, making me really like him as an actor. Because
amazing how he can be good if you just don't make him save the president every time.
Yeah, or let him have an accent like that. So yeah, it's a war between Rome and Volsci, which was an area that lived. It was around that time, and Tullus Ephaetus was the general of the Volscian army. Yeah. So unlike in the play, which usually is plate armor and swords, they're running in with tactical gear and machine guns, and they have like a knife fight and everything. It's really well choreographed and really cool, and they make the Shakespearean dialogue very natural. And because you've got these really powerhouse actors, it just sells it very strong. It's a great lesson on how to use film to make that medium work real well by using editing and things like that, and you're not stuck on a stage. Eventually what happens in the story is the politics that be go against Coriolanus, and he's removed from power as a tyrant. And he decides to go to Tullus and say, you were once my enemy. I join hands with you to take over Rome. And it leads to the tragic downfall of his family and eventually the tragic downfall of himself. And so like one of the big things is like, here we see a man become a dragon. And so there's always this thing where it's like Coriolanus is compared to a beast, like a dragon in waiting. And eventually when the powers that be oust him, he returns to his old enemy and says, I'll fight alongside you. And they come and...
Is Coriolanus a particularly noble character?
He's a tragic character. He's more in line with a Macbeth or something. He's somebody who comes in...
Does he betray his values, or does like circumstances outside of his control bring him down?
He becomes... too powerful. He becomes too powerful, and then the powers that be, his mother, Brian Cox's character, his advisors are like, we have to take him out. We have to get rid of him because he's become too dangerous. It's kind of like a proto or post-proto Julius Caesar sort of thing, where it's like he's become too dangerous. We have to get rid of him, and he's exiled and returns with his enemy. But that eventually his enemy takes advantage of that. I highly recommend checking it out.
Sounds kind of cool.
It is very cool. Very well paced. I think it makes a good partner with this kind of movie, because that's a very set in the era that Shakespeare wrote it, and very much a historical drama. While this is a what you can do with Shakespeare to make it really interesting, which is set it in a modern era. Everyone's got suits and ties. I'll show you the trailer after we're done and give you an idea of it.
Sure.
Fiennes does a fantastic job. Gerard Butler's great. Everyone's good in it. I like Brian Cox.
Who plays who? Just
Ray Fiennes plays Coriolanus.
So does Gerard Butler?
Butler plays Tullus, his enemy, and so he's not in it much. He's mostly hanging out in like warehouses with his militia and like everything, because it kind of gives you the idea that it's like they're a like guerrilla force, and so they're all like in fatigues and everything, while the Roman army is coming in. And so when they meet him, it's like in back alleys. It kind of has like a noir sort of vibe, like, oh, you come to see me. He's like picking his nails with a knife and everything, and they have these really great knife fights. And so it's a really solid action movie that is a direct from the script Shakespearean play.
Do you have a favorite movie based on Shakespeare?
That would probably be, if I had to have a favorite, one that I think is one of the best. Because I was actually first going to recommend going back and checking out Baz Luhrmann's Romeo plus Juliet, because that movie's kind of great. I think it's really worth watching again.
It's all right. I remember it.
I like it a lot. I think it's a really solid.
They turn the swords into swords 9mm or whatever.
But I mean, that whole first scene at the gas station when they do the you pick your finger at me, sir, you point my thumb at you, sir, is a great example of how to do that dialect and how to do that and make it make sense. Because that's the success of Shakespeare. If you can make these words that we haven't spoken about, or this way we've spoken, which they didn't even speak that way then, it's poetry. It's overly fictionalized way of speaking.
Did you ever watch the Midsummer Night's Dream with like Kevin Costner, the other Kevin
Kevin Kline? Yeah,
it was all right.
That was a good one. Did you see the because there's one I really like, and it's the is it As You Like It?
Is the one with Denzel Washington?
No, not that one. That's the one with Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
I need to watch that one. Never seen it.
I've never seen it either. I hear it's quite the meme, though.
It's done by our favorite person. It's Joss Whedon. Much Ado. He did Much Ado About Nothing. Yeah. That's a good Much Ado production.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't even know what that's about.
It's another comedy, mistaken identity, all kinds of stuff going on. Nathan Fillion's really funny. He plays the sheriff who's an idiot. It's worth checking out.
Is there a version of Shakespeare that hasn't been done yet that you think should have been done?
Well, I was gonna say
I heard someone say like The Tempest should have been made into something by now.
Oh, I'm sure the Disney's The Tempest would be something else. I was gonna say my favorite. I think I always go back to is Throne of Blood by Akira Kurosawa. Not to be really art housey, but Akira Kurosawa's Throne of Blood is a take on Macbeth in medieval Japan. Black and white with Tetsuro Mifune, and it is essentially just a story of Macbeth, but where he's a returning warrior.
They don't keep the names though.
No, the names are all different, and it's like Castle Spiderweb and all that, and the phantoms are different and everything.
Speaking of Macbeth, that's a good one.
Yeah, the Macbeth with
Michael
Fassbender. Yeah, that one's pretty good.
Yeah.
When I was talking to somebody recently about like in high school, because we were talking about The Green Knight, and like movies that we got to watch in high school because they were related to things we were reading. Because I'm like, this Green Knight is probably going to be one of those movies. Is like,
one can only hope.
English classes are going to be like, we're going to watch this to give you an idea of what that Green Knight is about. Like we had, like some people had to watch the Robert Zemeckis Beowulf.
I kind of like that Beowulf though.
I am Beowulf.
It is what it is, but
it is what it is. It was ambitious for the time.
It's not like it's nothing too offensive compared to what the actual text is. It's the same thing basically, except like the dragon is Beowulf's son, maybe.
Right, and then and Angelina Jolie is Grendel's mom.
Yeah, it is what it is.
I remember in high school watching clips from the Roman Polanski Macbeth, which he directed after the Tate LaBianca murders.
Oh gosh.
It was one of his depression movies. It's brutal. It's a nasty film. Like it's
good though.
It's good. It's doesn't have anyone of any particular note. It's very 70s, but it is a very dire, very dreary adaptation of Macbeth. But what Throne of Blood does really great is it is very entertaining. It's very short. And it's visually very stunning, and it essentially tells the same story of a phantom telling a soldier and his buddy, like, you two will be the great houses, you will overtake the emperor, and you will become like leaders in this land. And they're like, oh, well, how about that? And eventually he becomes obsessed with power and has them murdered, and eventually it leads up to the whole thing of like the woods of Dunsinane will rise up against you. And we see a shot, Kurosawa, being ambitious as he was, like has a whole forest moving, and but he gets the famous scene in the movie is Tetsuro Mifune standing up against the army at the end on top of his castle, and they just start shooting arrows at him. And the apocrypha of the story is that they actually shot live arrows at Mifune and didn't tell him. And so when he's like, he's freaking out, that's his actual reactions, because he eventually turns into a pincushion. Like, it's really amazing. He's still like swinging his sword, and he's just covered head to toe with arrows. Great movie.
Wait till he wasn't actually shot, was
No,
he? Okay.
They shot around him with live arrows. The rest were placed by, no, they weren't hitting him over. Kurosawa would have never tried to kill Mifune. That was his Clint Eastwood. He's like, I'm not killing my best friend.
I hear the Gibson Hamlet.
I like it.
Good.
I like it. I've talked to some people who are Shakespearean professionals, and we've talked a lot about Hamlet because he's the big character to talk about. Yeah. And I've heard some people say, I hate to admit it, Gibson's is pretty good. He does a really interesting take on it.
There's the Ethan Hawke one, which is like weird meta, and I
haven't seen that one.
It's all right.
I know that Bill Murray plays Polonius, and Claire Danes.
I can't remember.
Because it's Helena Bonham Carter plays Ophelia in the Gibson one.
Right.
So to wrap it up back to my recommendation, I could talk about Shakespeare adapts all day for what I've seen. Coriolanus, check that one out. I think it's a lot of fun. We'll watch a trailer.
Do it.
It's yeah. So
yeah. This has been an episode of The Movie Date with Rob and Matt, a podcast for people who like movies but don't want to be too smug about it. You can check us out on Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, Podbean, and that's it. Those were all of them.
But you can definitely check us out. Leave messages, leave comments, like, share us. We certainly appreciate it. We appreciate all of our viewers out there and our listeners
doing all the hard work, God's work.
Send us some reviews.
Podcasts.
Let us know what you think about us and what you'd like us to do.
And we'll see you guys on the next time.
Later. Be well.